You know, when you've literally risked it all to make this work, you're like, I don't care if we're on plan K, we're going to make this happen.
Your CFO
somehow.
mom was probably losing her mind.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. I'm
This
sure she was
podcast is
not
actually the
impressed.
first she's going to hear about it. So. The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Predator Camo.
Man, this one feels good, right? I know people have been looking at this picture over your shoulder for a while now. I think that was 2018, but we just, over the last, how many years, keep coming back to Predator Camo because it's been so damn good for us.
No doubt. I think we bought our first set off of Jen at the Archer Trade Show almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And Jen's still with the company, and the patterns have only improved since then. They actually were recently acquired within the past couple of years. We've had a chance this past year to go and meet with new ownership, talk about redesigning a lot of the old lines, plans for new patterns, all of the above. So really excited about what's to come, not only this coming year, but in years to come. There's a lot of good stuff coming from Predator.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, it's always been going back to that breakup pattern, right? That's the historic look, whether you're talking about the spring greens or brown deceptions or fall grays. Yeah. I mean, that breakup is really what's been so powerful for us in a tree stand. And right now, they're letting anyone use the code HUNTR on the Predator Camo website and get 20% off any of the lines, including all the new stuff that dropped here in July.
Be the Predator.
And we're back.
Ew.
HUNTR Podcast, episode 278, as Nick keeps us a line from afar. South Carolina, afar.
Throat's feeling a little, not scratchy, but just like using it a lot.
A lot of talking.
For talking.
A lot of chatting. I get it. Yeah. That's those fall allergies kicking in as well.
Is that what it is? You'll get a kick out of this.
Fall allergy.
As will our guest who's listening. Brackett and I were at a pizza shop the other day. I stopped on the way home.
I wondered if you did, yeah.
And there was this girl in there that I get the sense she like hangs out there a lot. And she goes, the allergies are terrible. She just kept talking about how bad the allergies were.
You're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, we're like, yeah.
What's up?
They are bad.
They are bad, huh?
So, well, hey, before we get ripping, we appreciate y'all for being here and tuning in every week. We drop these episodes at Tuesday and Thursday, or on Tuesday and Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern time is when we do that. If you like, follow, or subscribe to the channel or on our Spotify account or whatever they call that, you should get some kind of a bell notification as to when these drop every week. So, other than that, if you've written us on Instagram DM or the website, we are working diligently to get back through those as quickly as we can.
Doing pretty well right now. Doing pretty well.
We have some merch on the website that you guys can check out. In fact, here's one of the new ones.
New shirt.
Finally.
Antler progression.
I thought that one was pretty cool.
Yep.
So
that's a Dustin DeTillo artwork.
Yeah, it was. With some modification, with some Jared Prussia modification.
Of course.
But we got it there. You can also use code HUNTR, HUNTR, on any of our partners' websites for a discount in some way, shape, or form. And other than that, here we go.
We're still fairly real time. We're filming this on the 8th.
Oh, we're all in real time, man.
Yeah. On the 8th, this is airing whatever next Tuesday is. 13th, something like that. I
will say it's been not work in a sense, but it's been an intention to ramp back up to 2 a week.
Yeah,
it almost feels like twice the amount of time.
One might say,
if my math's correct,
2 a week from 1 a week could double the workload. I think the other thing is like we're shooting 3 this week because the anticipation of when the weather gets right, we're in a tree stand. So we're going to end up missing a day.
Preparedness is key. So we'll just grind when we can grind.
Yep.
Even today, we might be missing, kind of a decent night in the stand. But
we are.
Or what is today? Wednesday?
Tonight into tomorrow.
Yeah, tonight. And tomorrow's we bumped up to hopefully jump in the stand by, in time.
Afternoon. So. Yeah. I've got my race, so I'm just kind of in non-hunt mode right now. So it'll come back at some point.
You ready?
Yeah.
You feel good?
Yeah. I think, how ready can you be for a 100-mile race? I've trained. I've got through training.
I think only you would know the answer to that question. I would assume there's some level of readiness that you want to
I've got through training. I've got a huge list of shit I got to pack up and have with me for different aid stations. I've got 2 pacers. My cousin and Emily are pacing for the last 40 miles, give or take. They'll switch off. And I think it's just really, I think that first 70 is like, just take care of your body. Make sure you don't get into like a calorie deficit. Don't do something stupid. Don't feel like you're like, oh man, I feel amazing, and like go out there blazing glory and just like die at the end. So yeah, just kind of run your race, take care of yourself, and then the last whatever it's going to be is just guts to to get to the line.
What's the longest marathon ever run? Do you know what's the longest somebody's ever run without stopping, other than Forrest?
Other than Forrest Gump?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they've got a couple races that are like 500-mile races in Tennessee. They still sleep. Like, you stop and sleep. Yeah. Like, even in a 200-mile race, like when Emily did hers, like she still sleeps for 15 minutes here, an hour there. No sleeping in this one. Like, I just, you go. I
wonder if there's a way, like, could you supplement the body and the mind in such a way that, like, you would just almost never have to stop running?
I don't know.
Like, could you reach that point of just it's just
maybe
just fuel?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, that's the cadence. It's like figuring out how to replenish the calories that you're burning so you don't go into that deficit. And then the rest, like caffeine's a big one, but you don't want to take too much caffeine because then your stomach will turn and you're in trouble. So that's the balancing act essentially through it. But weather's going to be perfect though, so I can't bitch about that. It's gonna be like 40 degrees in the morning and like high as 67 or something.
I think at the end of this thing, you need like a celebratory tree stand cigarette.
I hope I can like
just sit at a tree stand
and just smoke a cigarette.
Just smoke a cigarette.
I hope I can like climb into a tree stand. The couple days immediately following this will be.
We'll get you one of those electric, the ones that go straight up.
Just go straight up like an elevator.
Yeah, I know.
I might need that. So. Yeah, so we'll see. As ready as you can be. I think the good part is because the weather's turning and it's October and the leaves are changing. Like, my mind is like just fully into hunt mode. So it's going to be anytime that I'm like, man, I just don't want to do this. It's like the sooner you get it done, the sooner you're just hunting. Yeah. Like, and that's the only thing you have to worry about.
Yep.
So that's like my other.
That's how I am with our
side drive factor.
Our ice cream shutdown projects is like, just buckle down, get it done. Hope it's not a massive cold front, know, and friggin' just
knock it out.
Yeah, on the other side of it, we got
a lot of time.
Some good stuff coming. So
yep. So anyways, we got a cool guest today. Not many females have been on the HUNTR Podcast.
I was honestly trying to recall how is it less than 5 for sure.
Yeah.
Which I'm a little embarrassed to say, but also there's just not, it's a male dominated, sport, if you're going to call that like a.
Well, when we talk about like, hardcore female hunters, like it is a select group and for good reason. Like, if you look at who's out there doing it, including our guest today, like, I mean, she's probably more of a hardcore hunter than I am. Like, she just got back from a moose hunt. She's like, hey, I'm going to spend some time here in October and then I'm gone again. Like, so if you look at that kind of style, like we've had Allie DeAndre on.
That's right.
Oh, you're
going to name them. We had that few.
Well, that's what I was. Yeah, we've had some of like the loan officers and stuff on from like an I bought a farm standpoint.
That's true. And Pennsylvania.
Yep.
DNR.
Tiffany had made slight appearances on the Lee Lakoski's episodes and stuff. So like there are a few, but we've got Melissa Bachman on today.
Yeah.
And I'm sure needs no introduction to most people listening to this, but Winchester Deadly Passion. Would be the show side of things. And yeah, I'm just excited about this because Melissa's one of those people for a while now that you watch and it's like she's out there getting after it.
I've personally always had that impression of like she's the real deal. And I've never heard anybody say anything poorly about Melissa. You know what I mean?
Agree.
Almost always somebody you can find somebody that's like, oh, they're just in it for the likes or the whatever. It's like I've never heard anybody say that about Melissa. She's like, all they've ever said is she freaking hunts hard and she's the real deal. Which
will be interesting to see if we get into that discussion with her, because if you look at, the era of like, even say, we talk about the heyday of outdoor television in that 2010 to 2017, 18 timeframe, right? And look at the female hunters that were there. You had Melissa, you had Tiffany, you had Nicole. So you see who those people are. But now there's this like whole era of like Tik Tok huntresses, which I think
we're honestly maybe kind of on the backside of.
You think so?
Yeah, there was a peak of it for a while.
Like, and again, I'm sure there's some legit hunters in that group, but there also are a lot that are not legit hunters
That's
that are there for, per what you said, the likes, the attention, whatever you want to say.
Right.
And that, I would assume that makes it difficult from a female aspect. So
it sure does.
So anyways, it'll be interesting to kind of just dive into it with Melissa and her background, and you know how we just rabbit hole down stuff. So we'll find something to talk about, and
try not to say stuff stupid as we're making a blanket statement about women hunters. That's what this podcast will be about. So
yeah. So anyways, let's bring in Melissa. Melissa Bachman, everyone.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I sure appreciate it.
Hopefully the intro wasn't
we butcher that too bad.
too bad.
She's like, these idiots.
Yeah, she's like, great. What did I get myself into?
No, I appreciate all the kind words, actually. It's
well,
nice
I mean, not to just like dive right into it, but like, you know, obviously, so you've been in the industry. I guess when did your first show start?
I started in 2006.
Okay.
So a long time ago. But I actually started as a cameraman. Nobody wanted me to have a show. Nobody cared. I just basically finally got hired as a cameraman, and I worked for free. So I worked there for 4 months, driving 150 miles a day back and forth to go be a free cameraman. You don't find that every day anymore. But really, I just wanted to get my foot in the door. I wanted to prove my worth and prove that, like, back then it was kind of taking a big chance. Like, I don't know, does this girl have a clue what she's doing, you know? And I basically said, listen, if you hire me, I will prove it. And after I worked for 4 months for free, they hired me for the full-time position that I applied for, which was pretty awesome. And I had applied I think at 74 locations. So like when you think about that, to get 74 no's when you graduate from college, you're like, oh, I'm going to get a sweet job, and nobody will even hire you. It's kind of a blow, you know, it's hard, but I believe it made me stronger. You know, it really taught me the work ethic that is needed. And I made a goal. I said, nobody will ever outwork me. That is going to be my number one thing. No one, I mean, there could be better hunters out there. There could be people with better opportunities. Nobody is going to hunt harder or work harder. And I still live by that to this day. And I think that's honestly made the difference and set me apart from others, because, you know, we're all in it trying to do the same thing. We all love to hunt. My love of hunting isn't any more than someone else's. But when it comes down to it, it ultimately a lot of times is who's going to work harder. Yeah.
No, I think that's a big one. What was that first who hired you first? Who was that first gig with?
Well, I worked at the North American Hunting Club, and when I say hired me, they allowed me to work there for free.
Yep.
So that was awesome. But it was really a good opportunity because I had great people around me, and I was a cameraman and editor. I basically learned how to put everybody else's shows together, which later on would be invaluable because I didn't have anybody bankrolling me. I didn't have any big money behind me. It was just me. So I had to learn every aspect to be able to do this job and do it myself because I didn't have the money to hire somebody. So I think that was so helpful. I had great guys who kind of guided me, taught me to be a better editor. I mean, I went to school for it, but it's not the same when you get in the real world. So it was just, I've always been super thankful for their time and, you know, helping me grow. And I actually worked there full time for 4 years and then kind of worked my way in front of the camera. But it was a pretty amazing experience to just be around so many people, to travel so much, to learn a lot. You know, I was from West Central Minnesota. I didn't get to travel the world, but boy, I quickly kind of picked up things. And again, you know, it's learning to adapt and learning to work harder than everybody else.
Where was that, Melissa, that you ended up getting hired onto initially?
Minnetonka. It was called the North American Hunting Club. They used to have about 700,000-800,000 members.
I remember
it was a membership type thing where they'd send you things in the mail. You got to be a part of the club. You'd field test.
I remember
things.
Like the little seal sticker they would send you and stuff.
Leather jackets, you know, you name it. But it was a really good group of guys I got to work with, and they really kind of took me under their wing and taught me a lot of things I needed to know that would help make me successful later.
Yeah. And did you say you went to school for filming, like videography? Yeah.
So I have a 4-year, I have a double major in television production and in Spanish. So when I got done, I was either going to my thoughts were to maybe go work on the NFL sidelines or to do news. Some of the news jobs I applied for, I saw what they were paying and I was like, oh, that is terrible.
Not good.
Yeah, no, I was like, that's not cool.
You're like, I'm going to go work in the hunting industry and make all kinds of money.
I was either going to do this job or be an anesthesiologist. And I started looking at the pay and I was like, wow, I went the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Interesting.
Well, what drove you? So you mentioned like the NFL. So was it a sports mindset when you originally went into that major?
Not necessarily. Honestly, it was news. You know,
Okay.
I always thought like the news anchors, it would be neat to do that. But I also it was the time when I started learning some of the stuff. I didn't care for some of the things that were happening in the news, how they're changing some of the stories. And I was kind of a part of all that. And I just thought, geez, that's not really what I want to do forever. And so I love sports. I was a track athlete all through college. And I thought, okay, you know, what kind of sports could you do well at, make pretty good money? And then I didn't really feel that was the right route either. And to be honest, I never really watched hunting shows growing up. I didn't even hardly know they existed. I've always been a hunter since I was a little kid. And when I realized that kind of both of those worlds could come together, I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I could do. And this is a way I could utilize my education. Plus, there's not really like a very strict business model on like, this is the right way to do it. And I kind of like that, right? I like the idea of, you know, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. My mom's a CFO. She's very black and white, like everything's, you know exactly how much money you're going to make. And I was literally flying by the seat of my pants. Like I would hunt until I ran out of money and I'd have enough money to get home. And she's like, this is the worst business model I have ever heard of.
Is your mom your CFO now?
No, she didn't know.
No, keep it separate, huh? That's cool. Do you remember, Melissa, that moment that you realized like that maybe the two worlds could exist together? Was there something that you're like, oh, like they're doing, you know, kind of what I'm aspiring to do? Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, you know, I watched some of Tom Miranda's videos, and the funny thing is he actually became a great mentor to me all the way through, still to this day. And he was just someone that the more I watched his stuff, the more I learned about him. He was doing it all himself. He was producing it. He was filming it. He was writing. He was doing all these things. And I actually got called in for Matthews to do when they came out with the Jewel Bow. It was myself, Tiffany Lakoski, Candy Kiske, Nicole Reeve. She was Nicole Jones at the time. And I think Samantha Morgan. And they brought us all in.
I remember that.
And it was just such a cool thing because I was just a cameraman then. And I was like, man, can't believe they called to have me come and do this. I was a nervous wreck. And I thought, oh, what, you know, but I got to meet Tom Miranda on that shoot too. They did some more things and just talking with people. And I thought, you know what, there's a really great business avenue that you can kind of go your own way here. So I kind of embraced that with open arms. And I still to this day still do a lot of production things. I do a lot of, you know, I don't have a middleman between me and all the things I do, whether it's sponsorships, the network, my shows. I'm super involved all the way through. And one, I like it, but two, I also don't want to give anybody else the money. I like to spend money myself. So
yeah. The cut gets pretty thin there when you have to start paying the middleman in between there.
Yeah. Now, since you mentioned that, do you hire? Is there people that work for you under Deadly Passion? Do you have full-time videographers, editors, like stuff like that?
Yeah, so I don't hire anybody full-time. So I'm the only person that's full-time. I have a cameraman who's filmed with me for 14 years on freelance. Him and I travel all over. My husband helps sometimes as well. A lot of times I like to bring both my husband and him if we can. That way we could have two angles. But I'm a firm believer you don't want like this huge group in the field, right? Because as a hunter, you're only as good as your weakest link. So I'm out there trying to kill trophy animals. I'm trying to be a super hard hunter. I want to be as low maintenance as anyone will ever find in a camp. So you got to make sure you surround yourself with people like that. So I guess my point is I never have a big group. And then also I have a guy who's from Ohio who actually worked with Tom Miranda as well. And he'll edit segments for me. But I still take everything back. I finish every show myself. It's just, I used to edit every full show as well. But now with a family and 5 kids, I have to give some things up. So that's one of them that I let him do the segments and then I finish every show still.
Yeah. What was that process of, or how long did it take to find this cameraman that you landed on and has now been with you for 13, 14 years?
You know, I met him on a shoot when I was a cameraman as well. And we got along well. And I think so much of that is important. We're very similar in hunting styles and he's a great cameraman. So for me being a cameraman myself, I need to have someone that I'm never like questioning, like, did you get it right? Is it, you know, he's got it. right? Like you have to have that balance. And I think that's how you can become a really strong team is you both know what you're doing. And when all three of us go, I mean, we're a very cohesive unit. It works well. We travel well. Everyone's kind of looking out for each other and we're all friends. So that really helps.
The cameraman thing's always been interesting for us because it's like when we first started this, that was kind of the plan. It was like, oh, well, we're going to film these shoots or we're going to do these small like short films on the different seasons and stuff. And then it was like, well, everybody that we knew or we trusted in the field, they also wanted to be hunting. They didn't want to be behind a camera when we were out hunting. So it was like, okay, well, what if you bring somebody who's good with a camera but isn't a hunter? Well, you learn quickly that doesn't work real well.
Yeah.
No, it's a challenge. And I think, I've tried to over the years, like try to do things where like if I kill early and I can buy another tag, let him hunt too.
Yeah,
'cause he's
for
a
sure.
hunter,
Absolutely.
You try to make it a great place, a fun environment. And truthfully, at the end of the day, if every idea is kind of bounced off everybody and you all feel like you're in it, maybe you weren't the one pulling the trigger. But I think it's just as rewarding sometimes to know, he's done his part. We have stunning footage. I did my part and you're building the show that way. So I think it helps. Also, it's not cheap, right? Like if you want great people, you have to pay.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I didn't have the money. So I actually cashed in my entire retirement for the first year just to pay for him to come film me.
Wow.
Like talk about putting all your eggs in one basket. Like this has to work.
Yeah.
But it's a hard, again, if you don't have someone bankrolling you, you got to make those sacrifices and find ways to make it happen.
So what did that look like for you? You talk about that transition from being behind the camera to in front of the camera. Was that like an invitation? Was it an opportunity? Like what was that transition like for you?
It was hard because nobody wants to let you be on camera. That's what I found out real quickly. Like they've got that spot. They love it. They don't want more people doing it.
Right.
So what I did is I actually, when I was working at the North American Hunting Club, I found things that people didn't like to do. We had to do these tip segments. Nobody seemed to like to do that. So I went out on my own time, filmed all of them. And I just said, hey, nobody has to do them anymore. I filmed them all. I edited them. They're ready to go. And they're like, oh, that's awesome. But in my head, all I was thinking is I'm getting my face in front of the camera. Hopefully someone notices. And that's actually how Matthews noticed. Then Matthews brought me in. And then all of a sudden, a few other people asked and they'd be like, nah, she's just a cameraman. Don't worry about her. Well, if I worked 30 days straight, they gave me 5 days off of comp time. And I bought my own equipment. I would go out, film my own hunts, edit them, and then just wait till it was like Friday. Everybody's scrambling around and the show wasn't done for the week. And I'd be like, well, here's a really cool show. I already edited it. It's filmed. It's free. And that's kind of how I transitioned to that area.
So really seeded into the opportunities that were there.
Yep. And, nobody wants to, but boy, when you're scrambling around and there's like this nice nugget sitting there all finished, you're like, yeah, it's free. You don't have to pay. No, believe me, I didn't have any spare money, but I still knew better than to try to ask for money. I just said, it's all yours. I just wanted the exposure and it worked out good. But again, there's not a set way to do it, which is kind of what I liked. I took the long route, no question.
Yeah. Was there I would assume then there was a confidence in yourself that you're like, if I can get out there and I can do these things and people can see it, I've got a pathway. I can take advantage.
If they could just see me, they'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really believe that. And my idea was always, I understand there's a lot of women in the sport now, and I love seeing that. But my idea from the very beginning was I want to hunt and make it so interesting that if I was an 80-year-old old man that nobody wanted to look at, they would be super intrigued by the hunting I'm doing and how it happens. So I think I made like a conscious effort to make sure that I never utilize, well, I'm a girl, so you're going to want to watch me hunt. No, not at all. I wanted it so good and so interesting that even the hardest hunting guys would be like, yeah, she's got it figured out, or she knows what she's doing, or wow, she put a lot of effort into that. And, just being super humble about it and showing, sometimes things don't work. I've had incredible seasons. I've had tough seasons. That doesn't make me any less of a hunter. It makes me real.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that realism is what people can relate to.
So in some of those early type hunts, were those whitetail focused? Were they turkey focused? Were they local, I guess, versus like traveling to do stuff?
I would do anything I could.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would find outfitters who maybe back then they didn't have websites. They didn't have videos for like a highlight video for trade shows. So I would offer, hey, if you let me come hunt, my brother can build websites. So I'd rope my brother into helping me build them a website. Nice. I'd make them a promo video because a lot of them sat at these trade shows and get them a little monitor and play it. So I was trying to find things that I could do for them instead of paying them because I didn't have the money. And I got all sorts of different opportunities because of that. So some were whitetails, some were, I literally would go on whatever opportunity came up or whoever I met. And I think it worked pretty well for everybody all the way around.
Yeah.
Here, if I can make sure I'm tracking with the progression here, like, was that while you were with North American Hunting Club, or were you just filming tips for them? And
so I was a full-time cameraman and an editor for the North American Hunting Club for 4 years.
Okay.
But in those 4 years, I was trying to like kind of get my way in front of the camera.
Going. Yep.
And by the end of it, I was on camera for some of them. And then I actually broke away and started Winchester Deadly Passion.
You started,
and they got some new people in, and they actually hired me back again to do that show under them. I think for a year, maybe. I don't even remember the exact dates.
Okay.
And then I broke away. They kind of dissipated, and I think I'm filming for season 15 now. So I've been doing it a long time.
So after about 4 years, or towards the end of that, you were aspiring to break out and do your own thing, and then you went to, and Winchester just came on as a title sponsor of yours at that point is how that worked.
So I actually, the hard part with any TV part is trying to figure out how you're going to lock in airtime with no money, right?
Sure.
But you can't get a sponsor until you have airtime, right?
Chicken
and it's such a hard battle. You're like, how do I do this? So I actually signed off that if it didn't work out, they could take my home.
Holy cow. Are you kidding me?
So,
you basically put it up for collateral?
Yeah, so I put up my house, which it was a townhome at the time.
That's ballsy. Cash in your retirement and your house. Holy cow, Melissa.
Like when you talk about going all in, like
dude.
And I think sometimes though that makes you, one, appreciate it more, and two, it makes you want it more. When you've literally risked it all to make this work, you're like, I don't care if we're on plan K, we're going to make this happen.
Your CFO
somehow.
mom was probably losing her mind.
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
This podcast is actually the first she's going to hear about it. So,
But sometimes that's what you have to do, right? Because I didn't want to go out and try to, because you could probably go out and maybe talk an investor into it. But I believe so strongly that eventually I can make this work. I didn't want to split proceeds later on, right? I was like, no, I can do this. The biggest thing that I found with even filming everybody else, this is a people-oriented business, right? Like, I'm hunting quite a bit, but so much of it is actually around people and building relationships with outfitters, with guides, with sponsors, with cameramen, with, your whole group, and just being a good person sometimes. And I think that goes a long way. And truthfully, the stronger those relationships are, you'll hopefully be the last one cut. There's going to be times when sponsors have to cut ties.
Yeah.
But boy, I want them to feel pretty bad. Like, geez, Melissa's worked really hard. You almost, like, I got all my first sponsorships because I pretty much guilted people into it.
That's
because
right,
I did so much work for them first, So I think there's something to be said for that. And again, there's lots of different ways to go about it, but I do believe it really makes you appreciate it. And it's what I've always loved to do. I heard you guys talk earlier about, there's more people getting into it for the likes and stuff. And if I won the lottery tomorrow, I would be hunting all the time and I would never have a TV show and you'd never see me on social media.
Yeah.
I just love that, but I don't need any of that other stuff. I do that because that's part of the job. But I guess my point is the hunting is really my passion and what I love. And I think people can see that.
Yeah. Well, I think, if you look at that time frame, in those late 2000s, especially, like that was the heyday of like, outdoor television boom and, obviously trickling into 2010 through 15 even. But at that time, it also was like, I remember the really rigorous quality control that was going through Sportsman's Channel or Outdoor Channel at the time. I mean, it was, not to like belittle it now, but there's a lot of people that can walk up with a check to buy airtime right now and get their show on. It still has to have a quality aspect to it, but back then it didn't matter if you had money or not. There was a thought process there that you had to be the best of the best to be able to get on air. And so obviously, the path that you're taking there, and again, no offense to these other guys, because we know most of them, but like a lot of them have backing, right? They've been in the business. They have, like whether it's Waddy and Realtree for many years and stuff, they have backing. So as you're walking into this thing, and that airtime is not cheap.
It is not. And I was very lucky that, I got teamed up with Winchester early on. And that has been one of the best relationships you could ever find because, they're a company, they're not just going away, When I remember celebrating their 150th anniversary and, my grandfather was the biggest Winchester person you could ever find. And to me, it was more about finding sponsorships that really aligned with myself and my brand and companies that just aren't like a fly-by-night company who might be here today and gone tomorrow. Like some of those big companies, it may take longer to build those relationships with, but I think it can be so strong. And, I've proven that. And, they have just been such an incredible partner all the way through. And again, it's so much about those brands aligning and just being on the same page with people, I think, too.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by DeerGro.
Man, hard to believe, but DeerGro has been the sponsor that's been there since the beginning of the HUNTR Podcast. Back in 2021, I think that they were the only partner that we had, but it's such a cornerstone brand and set of products for our food plot strategy throughout the year.
No doubt. And it seems like we used to have an off season, but not so much anymore. It's like when the hunting season ends, it really rolls right into food plot season, habitat projects, all of the above. And the Plot Start and Plot Boost have been there since the very beginning. That's a cornerstone for all of our plots. The Plot Start goes on at the beginning, Plot Boost goes on midway through. And since they came out with all of the fertilizers, that gets mixed in with the Plot Boost application as well. And I can't believe the results that we've been getting out of that.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Like I said, it's all the work now that really produces the results in the fall. So right now, anyone listening to the HUNTR Podcast can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for 15% off any of the products at DeerGro.com.
Better food plots, bigger deer.
Let's back up a little bit. So you talked about you've been hunting since you were a little kid. So I assume you grew up in a hunting family in Minnesota?
Yes, my mom and dad both hunted all the time, and my brother and I got to go along all the time, whether we wanted to or not. They said they were not paying for babysitters. We're coming along.
So was it more like that upper Midwest classic like deer camp family, or did you guys have a private farm? Like what was that like growing up?
We lived on about 115 acres.
Okay.
So we did a lot of the hunting right around our home. But, in Minnesota, deer season was basically the season we did was a 4-day season. I believe it was Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So I got to take 2 days off of school for that, go hunting. It was like the exciting time. I bow hunted some. But I actually, my senior year, I had good enough grades that my mom and dad let me have a permit. It was called a work permit for school.
Yep.
And I didn't have to be at school until 10 a.m. so I could bow hunt every morning all through the fall.
Boy, that's
and
a
they
good
said
one.
I was providing food for the family. It worked out wonderful.
Wow.
But it just kind of shows you like the real love I had for hunting way back then. Wasn't ever thinking I could make a career out of it by any stretch. It's what I enjoyed doing. And I think that comes from, people talk about getting more women into it. As far as I knew, I thought all women pretty much did it. I grew up in a small town. We did, all these different things. Firearm safety. There were probably just as many girls as boys. My mom hunted. My grandma hunted. So you had a big group of people all the way through that were great role models. So to me, I felt very lucky for having that.
I was gonna kind of ask you that, like as a girl in high school and stuff, did you have many other friends like your age, other girls that were hunting with you and stuff? But was like, did you ever notice you're like, oh, it's just kind of me doing this, or?
No, I really didn't care, to be honest. But there were some girls in school, but like all the guys would hunt and I loved to hunt, and nobody ever thought it was weird or said anything, In fact, when I would shoot a deer, my dad brought it to school so I could show everybody at lunchtime. We got to come out and look at the deer in the bed of the truck to show everybody. And again, it's kind of like going back in time. That was totally acceptable. Right?
I know. That's what I was going to say. Man, have times changed? Because I remember the same thing. Like it was like, I'll date myself. So I graduated high school in 2003. And as far as I remember, I always had a bow or a rifle in my truck for hunting. Like the moment I would get out of school, unless it was like, track practice or cross country or something, I immediately went straight to the woods. And that was just a normal thing. Like it was just in my truck all the time. Now it's like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I graduated in 2002, so it was very similar. We'd go goose hunting sometimes before school, sometimes after. We'd do whatever. But yeah, I never, honestly, I obviously there were not as many girls who hunted as guys, but I'd never thought anything of it. Never thought twice of it, to be honest.
That's wild. Yeah, it's especially when you're in that kind of a culture, so like Jared and I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, similar type of culture, right? When you think about like that Pennsylvania or Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan deer camp type style, it's like there was a period, especially around gun season, that it was like you thought everybody hunted, right? That just because you drive by any gas station and there's 100 orange pumpkins standing outside the gas station. Now, we don't see that nearly as much anymore, but at the time, like, it was just kind of the common thing. And, even, so I was in, we're just outside of Pittsburgh, so I was probably in a bigger town than where you grew up, Melissa, but I remember, like, just even some girls that were in my grade, like, eventually I'd overhear them talking about hunting. I'm like, you hunt? And they're like, yeah, like, all the time. I'm like, that's awesome. Because it was kind of a rare thing, from something I didn't expect to hear from the girls in my class.
Mm-hmm.
Well, doesn't it seem like, I wonder if like there's a point where it seems like people, guys and girls, decide like that's what they did as a kid, but I would imagine there's a higher rate of females who at a certain point are like, whatever it is, they get involved in a relationship, or it's like whatever it is, I don't know, that pulls them away.
Sports,
well, I'm going to say it's a higher percentage. I would guess, though. Melissa, you can tell me if I'm wrong, though. Like, I think, and maybe I am wrong, because definitely when I went through high school, there was a phase where I was like, it was more sports and other things. I got preoccupied with, I was doing other stuff, racing motocross.
You're a teenager.
Wrestling. I was just being a teenager and stuff. I loved to hunt as a kid, but I like almost had to refine my love for hunting after like towards the end of high school, like getting into college type of a thing. And I sense that, I mean, I know it's the case. I think there's a smaller percentage of females who refine that again or have the opportunity to do it. And so it's just interesting that you like all the way through have persevered and you're like, no, this is what I love to do.
It never faded
and
out.
As other people maybe have fallen away and they're doing this, you're like, I'm going to just like take this absolutely to the max.
And I think too, a lot of it, we've really worked hard to try to involve our kids from when they were very little.
Yeah.
And I think by having that base, I think so many times, like you see some of the Minnesota, the Wisconsin deer hunting camps, all the guys go to deer camp and they never ask the daughters to come, right?
Yeah.
So they never ask the wives. Now things have changed, but I guess if you feel like you're kind of excluded, you're like, well, that's their thing. We'll just let them go do that. Where I think now it's become more the norm, like, let's all go, right?
Yeah.
And I think guys find out quickly that if you have the whole family involved, you can spend a lot more money, right?
Yeah.
You can,
for sure.
instead of going to a vacation on the beach in Mexico,
You catch that, guys?
you can
There's a tip there.
suddenly go deer hunting in Illinois, or you can go on a Yukon moose hunt, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Different things. I just think that there's so much power in building that love early, because you're right. You may kind of step away. Not everyone's going to stay steadfast in the hunting side, but if you have that base, you'll always feel comfortable. Like that's your place, that's your space to get away. And, maybe it won't be until you're in your 20s, you got a busy job and you need to find how to like disconnect from things. It might be hunting that brings you back to it. So I think people come back for various reasons, of course, relationships, things like that. But I just think if you have that solid base, it makes it a lot easier to come back to it.
Okay. So let me ask you this, asking for a friend. No, I'm asking for, so me or guys, I'm sure there's plenty of guys in this situation. My wife is not interested in hunting at all. Wasn't raised in it. Nothing. Obviously when she met me, I made it pretty clear up front. I was like, hey, this is kind of a priority for me. And so there was times where I was like, I took her out with me a few times and stuff, and she just can't do the cold, frankly, is like a big part of it. It was like 55 degrees and she was like frozen to the tree. So there's that. There's also just there was no baseline of interest or understanding. And it's great. We've landed on that's totally okay with me. Frankly, in some senses, I prefer that, it's like, hey, this is my thing. I do this. And, she has her thing, and we have things that we do together. Do you think that there's like an opportunity for, like, I don't know, development in that space? Is like, do you think, are the things that you've seen or other couples that you've seen that have been like, well, hey, here's a situation where I don't know, you can foster that, or not like I'm trying to get her to hunt with me. That's not what I'm like looking for necessarily, but what's that look like?
I think for especially coming from the side from women, one thing a lot of women want is if they're going to go do it, one, they want to look the part. Okay. And two, they want to have as good a clothes and be as comfortable as you. Right.
Okay.
Because if she is freezing to death at 50 degrees and you're sitting there and you're like, it's totally fine. First thing that tells me is her gear's probably not good enough to be out there. So, and that comes from guys sometimes being like, well, you might only hunt once or twice, so I'm not going to go spend a bunch of money and get you clothes, right? But I have found that
this is exactly what I'm asking for, by the way. Proceed.
Yeah. So like for me, I wear DSG outerwear.
Yep.
So it's a clothing company that's made for women by women. They're out of Wisconsin. And the girl who started it, Wendy, she actually built it because she wanted snowmobiling clothes that was warm and looked good. So she did that, was very successful, and then built it into the hunting line. And I've been with them for many, many years, and they'll give me new stuff. I bring back feedback. I mean, I've been on brown bear hunts on Kodiak Island, pouring rain moose hunts. I bring back the feedback, and they have done such a great job, not only making that gear so you can stay out in the cold, but just like things that are super helpful for girls. If they're out there and let's say it's 20 below, I'm out hunting and you need to go to the bathroom. Guess what? For a girl, they've got to take all their coats off, everything off to be able to get their bibs off to be able to go to the bathroom. Yeah. Well, they created new bibs that allow you to just unzip the whole back side and they don't have to take all their coats off, right? So it's just like really common sense things that were never thought of.
Yeah, like that would be helpful for me too.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it'd be helpful for anybody. But like things that are super easy, but it also keeps you warm and more importantly makes them feel like they are walking out there and they fit in great. I always use an analogy. I had to go do this crazy golf tournament thing with a big sponsor, and it was with all these pro golf people. Now, I am not a golfer. I know nothing about golfing, but I'll tell you what, I was going to make sure I looked the part.
It looked the part.
Yeah.
So that was like the biggest thing. I'm like, I'm not going to try to pretend I know anything about golf, but if someone sees me, at least they'll think I know what I'm doing.
I'm going to look good doing it.
Yeah. And that's all I did. I actually bowed out of most of
That's
the
all right. You look the part.
But,
that's all that matters.
You're like, there's my balls right there.
Yeah. Oh, weird. You know what? Yours look great. I think we'll just count yours.
Yeah. We'll just play that one.
Keep it moving.
Yeah. So, but I think that that's true in anything. And if you think about hunting, it can be really kind of like a scary thing to get involved in. Anytime you have something that people are very passionate about, I think it's hard for people who don't know much about it to feel confident just jumping in, right? Because you've been a deer hunter for 25, 30 years and they're like, oh, what if I say something wrong? What if I take a picture? I mean, I see it all the time and I get mad about social media because like a new girl will go out and she's bow hunting and she gets her first deer. She shoots a doe. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
She's pumped. And someone's giving her grief about how she's holding their bow in the picture.
Oh, for sure. It's the first thing they'll say.
Yeah, it's so frustrating to me because I want to be like, you know what? We are all on the same team and we need to be a welcoming community. And that's something I'm so passionate about, whether it's new guys getting in, new girls, kids. You know, you don't ever want people to feel like if they make a mistake or say something wrong or shoot a deer that you don't think is up to par, they don't want to be embarrassed because they're proud of it. So I think as hunters, we all need to remember that and focus on making it very welcoming and focus on making sure that people feel like they can ask questions, you know, that they can learn from it. I mean, I don't care how you hold your bow in the picture, but if you're like holding it upside down in the stand, I might be like, hey, just a little heads up.
Yeah.
This might help you, you know, something like that. But do it in a really nice fashion, not a condescending tone. And I see it so often. I mean, people do it to me all the time. And the thing about me is I don't really put up with it. I give it back to them pretty well. I'm very kind about it, but I am not going to be bullied online, and nobody would ever seem to do it in person. Like
they don't. They're all keyboard warriors. That's all it is.
But you have to remind them like, hey, quit being like this because you're not going to make me feel bad. But what if there's some young girl who wanted to get into hunting and she sees this guy being mean to Melissa online and she's like, well, Melissa hunts 300 days a year and they're giving her grief. What are they going to do to me?
Yeah, tear me apart.
So I really try to remind people, and most are pretty good. I actually have gone into some people's profiles and looked, and they're married, they have kids, they have a wife, and I'll be like, you know what? How would you feel if someone treated your little daughter like this? And I'll pull it all the way back full circle, 9 times out of 10, they'll apologize.
So they're guys for the most part is what you're saying. Scumbags.
I didn't think of it that way. You know, they don't think you're a human really. And so I'm a pretty good person at reminding them that I'm a real person and I'm not going to sit back and take it.
Do you get a lot of that, Melissa? A lot of negativity or really?
Oh yeah. More than you should want. Like the anti-hunters, they've always been around, right?
We all get
that. Doesn't really bother me at all.
Yeah.
They come in droves. They'll like get my name and all of a sudden everything will be flooded with it. I don't really care. But I'll be honest, the people that are in the hunting community that'll bring the negativity, that bothers me.
Yeah.
I've spent whole days going back and forth because I believe like it's something that we can fix, right? Like I'm not going to try to change an anti-hunter's mind. That's fine. That's where you're at. But with the hunting community, I'm like, do you love hunting? And if so, why are we doing this to our own? You know, like stop, think about this. And even if you don't agree with the way I'm doing it, so what? I don't care. First off, I didn't ask for your approval. If you don't like it, don't follow it or watch something else. But secondly, like we have to remember there's 2 ways to do things or 10 ways sometimes, you know. That doesn't mean my way's right. I'm never trying to say it's my way or the highway. I just try to throw ideas out. Go ahead and try this, see if it works for you. And I think we need a little more of that. And we need people to just take a minute before they type some mean or derogatory message and be like, you know, is that really what we want to do within our community? And try to get people to take a step back.
Do you think that a lot of that is purely like old school thinking of masculinity comments towards you as a female hunter, or just like simply ignorance of like, I know better and what you're doing is wrong?
No, I don't think there's as much of that. Like I know a lot of times people want to say, well, people are mean to me because I'm a girl, right?
Yeah.
I don't see that much of that, to be honest. What I do see is people thinking that their way is the only right way, right?
Yep.
And, you know, I see it with traditional archers versus crossbow. I see it with scope muzzlers versus, you know, all these different things, right? But at the end of the day, unless we're going out there and you're making your own bow and you're making your own arrows and you're stalking in your bare foot, okay, we're all using some sort of technology. And I get these people who are so anti-technology. And I understand sometimes where they're coming from, but I also try to remind them, like the hunting numbers are dwindling. We cannot shoot ourselves in the foot by saying, well, this is bad because that's not how I hunted. Well, okay, well, maybe not. But you know what? Cellular trail cameras, they're pretty prevalent now. And I'll tell you what, my kids are more excited about going hunting because they grab my phone and instead of going to YouTube, they go to my Spy Point app. And they're looking at the big bucks. And Jax is like, this one's mine. I call this buck.
Yeah.
And I just think you have to embrace some of that. That doesn't mean you have to use it. If you don't like it, don't use it.
Right.
But you can't get mad at everybody else all the time.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think that's where, like, from our side, and you know, a big basis of this podcast is just having healthy conversations and debates of whether you agree or disagree with, you know, crossbows, cell cams, baiting, whatever, right? Lay them all out there. You know, our goal is always to just have an open conversation about it because that's how things used to get done, right? You had to have a conversation with someone. You had to go to a public meeting with the DNR or whatever and like have an open mic conversation. And now it's just all keyboard warrior stuff. And so like you get these comments and it's like, to your point, and I give you props on going back and trying to have conversations with them because there's plenty that we go into. I'm like, this is a lose-lose conversation. Like, I'm just going to waste time. I'm going to tell them.
Even within the community, I'm like, this it can't be helped.
And it's crazy because it's like, it's amazing, especially from a deer hunting perspective. Like this space, it's like everybody's an expert. Like it's just, that's how it is. That's how most people see it. And so when you try to have a conversation, and especially if it's around change, right? People hate change. It just seems like it immediately sparks this just like negative connotation on anything that happens. Like there's no possible way to say, well, let's just have a discussion about it. Like I want to understand how you feel. And let me tell you, it won't happen. Like there's a wall up essentially.
Yeah. And it happens very fast. And I've also found people would never act like that in person. I do probably 20 trade shows a year, right? I have people every once in a while who will say, I don't necessarily agree with this or that. And you know what? They're very kind.
Yeah.
People are considerate, and you can have that discussion. But online, it's instantly just negativity, throwing mean things out. And I open it all the time to people. Like I had a person, I was at the Harrisburg show doing seminars in the big thing. And I can't remember if it was a guy or girl, it doesn't matter. Said, I've watched a lot of your hunting shows. I like them, but I hate the fact that you wear makeup. I think it's wrong. I said, Interesting. So I repeated the question for the whole crowd of 300-400 people to hear. And I said, do you also hate the fact when news anchors are on TV that they wear makeup? Well, no. I said, well, here's the thing. My job is I'm on TV. I said, believe me, there are many mornings I'd love to just roll out of bed, pull my face mask up here and my hat down as low as I can. I said, but I don't. I get ready because this is my job. It's my choice. You don't have to. I choose to do it. I said, and does it make me less of a hunter? No. If you think the makeup could scare deer off, well, then that must mean I'm even a better hunter because I'm still killing big bucks with the makeup on. And I said, here's the thing. I said, at the end of the day, you can wear makeup. You can skip it. You can like it, not like it. Nobody's telling you have to watch it. So if you would prefer not to watch me, there's lots of others out there. And they came up and apologized afterwards. They're like, yeah, I never thought of it that way. And I just think that's how you, like you said, that's how we used to have conversations.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it. You can say you hate it. That's no big deal. I'm not going to change the way I do it.
What do you think?
But I'll definitely take into your consideration on why you think it's wrong, and we'll go from there.
What do you think was their discontentedness with the makeup? What do you think that was rooted in?
I think it comes back to them thinking like you're just trying to look good out there. You're not a real hunter. That whole idea, which is fine. Fine, say that. Well, then when I have a big buck and I'm wearing makeup and you say what you want, or I had someone who said, I shouldn't have a wedding ring on in the field, right? Like it's too noisy climbing up.
Well, you know what, Melissa, that is
Jared lost the finger.
That is a fair statement. So,
okay, well.
mainly from a safety standpoint. And actually, my rubber one is broken right now, but I do normally wear my rubber one.
Well, I did not know that, but okay. So, but there's something where someone has a legit thing, but they weren't saying it for safety wise.
Yeah.
They were saying for looks wise that they thought when I would draw on an animal that they would see.
That's crazy.
And I said, yeah, it's fine, whatever.
What are you supposed to do? Put some hockey tape over it.
Well, and I wear gloves most of the time, and it is what it is. It's no big deal. And obviously there's safety reasons to do or not to do things, which I had no idea about that. But again, it's a lot of it comes, and when you can have real conversations with people, you can understand kind of where they're coming from. Yeah. Where sometimes online, I feel like you don't have any background. You don't know, are they yelling? Are they, I don't know what their context is or what they're thinking. So I do think some things can get lost in translation, and sometimes it can sound more harsh than maybe they meant for it to be.
Well, there's a fine line too between like hating on somebody for doing something or just like publicly, whatever you're doing, shaming or and like an actual conversation about like, hey, something's right or wrong. And there's obviously a time and a place. And like, I don't think a comment on Instagram is necessarily the place to have a constructive like conversation. But to the technology thing, Jeremy and I talk a lot about, technology and how it's impacted hunting, in our opinion, over the last 10, 15, 20 years. And I think there's a real difference between saying, well, you shouldn't be hunting with cell cameras because it does this, and saying, hey, can we all agree that has maybe changed the dynamic of like whether it relates to access or how effective we are at killing deer, and maybe we should just regulate it from a management standpoint in a different sense. So both of those conversations have a place. Well, the management one has a place. The publicly shaming people for using them does not. So I agree with you there.
But you can also use that. Like, I know you said like Instagram's not the place for that. For example, I had a video that had over 1 million views, and everyone was just going crazy about it. And I actually used it as a very helpful thing because so many people were coming to the comments and reading and seeing people going back and forth, and you can almost use it as an area to educate people, to talk about things. It was something super simple. For years, we always hung grapevines in the field. And we'd have deer come by and they'd work these grapevines. We'd have a camera. Awesome. But the deer would rip the grapevines down. So then we started hanging some ropes, and the ropes took a long time before they'd start working because they had scents on them and stuff. Well, then Wildlife Research Center came out with this golden rope. sweet rope that is like 30 inches long. There's no scent on it. And they made a little scent that you can dip it in. Got them, put them out, and literally had bucks using them within like 2 days. And I had all the videos. I'm like, this is awesome. So we put them out all over. I just made a simple little reel showcasing me putting them out. And I didn't even show all the deer on it. It's just that we were putting it out that year. And people, I mean, you would have thought I had deer tied to the rope. You would have thought that these deer, I mean, I got so many comments. This is fish in a barrel. This isn't hunting, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is I'm out there with my kids. Like, they think it's so fun to like be a part of this, to make mock scrapes. I like interaction. That's been always my favorite part of deer hunting, whether it's using decoys, making mock scrapes, hanging ropes, planting food plots, you name it. But I like that. I feel like then I'm not just sitting on stand. I'm actually
they're bashing you for using scrape ropes, or
oh yes, like you go on my Facebook.
I've never even heard that one.
It's got 1 million views on it, and it has so many comments. And I quit commenting. I'm done. I'm over it. But you cannot imagine the negativity. And what blows my mind is there's been multiple other people, lots of people.
I see them all over the place now.
Yeah.
Nobody else has any negativity. And I'm like, and they're from hunters. It's not like anti-hunters.
Yeah.
And I was just truthfully blown away. And to me, I feel like I'm going out there, I'm putting in more work in the off season to make something interactive, which I find is fun.
Yeah.
And they do work well, but it is not fish in a barrel. Right?
That's crazy. I've never even heard of that kind of hate, like hate towards scrape ropes.
like of all the things to get mad about, like that's something that just blew up on me, and saying I'm a horrible hunter and how come you can't hunt the old school way? And like I had a guy from Arizona telling me you need to just get out there and march on foot. And I said, have you ever hunted in the Midwest on like a 60, 70 acre piece of property? You go marching through all that. I want you as my neighbor because you're going to push every deer to me. Thank you.
It's the same, like we get into, and it's one of those lose-lose conversations, but it's like, we'll talk about planting food plots, and then somebody will be like, well, this is no different than baiting. And we're like, yes, it is. Like, it clearly is a lot different than baiting. Like, I can't just go out in the woods and drop the seed and like, it's there the next day for me to hunt over. And it's not to like shame baiting. It's just, they're not the same. And it's like, you'll have an argument. You will not win the argument. They'll just be like, it is the same.
Well, here, it's interesting to hear your like relationship to the comment section, because
mainly because Jared doesn't.
God bless you. Yeah, because I just like, my brain doesn't have the capacity for it. Like, there's been times where I've tried to like read comments, and like the positive ones are great, cool, and I'll like it. That's about as much as I can give it, but then if there's like, even if it's a valid like disagreement, like I'm like, I just have so much going on during the day and stuff. And don't get me wrong, like it is important to me that we're interacting with people who watch the show and stuff. And so I try to channel all that effort into here and now, when we sit here for 2-3 hours and like, let's get that covered. But when it comes to a comment section, I'm just like, my brain just like,
that's usually why I respond to them.
So Jeremy responds to some of them, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, I just can't do it. So good for you for being able to.
It boils your blood sometimes, because you're like, what is going on here? Like I had, for example, one guy saying that the rope is the exact same as baiting and baiting is wrong.
That's insane.
So I was like, okay, I hear you. So my first thought are, let's do a little research here. So click on his profile, go through. There he is, bear hunting, sitting over bait. Okay, cool. Here's the thing, bud. Like, you just told me this was all wrong and whatnot. So I just went back and kindly reminded him that, that's what he does, and that there's nothing wrong with any of that. But how about let's not be like this? And that string went on for like 10 posts.
Oh yeah.
But you go into these people, and you'll find so much of the time they're just throwing things out, and they don't expect anyone to look into it,
Yeah.
And that's where I try to come in, and I don't do it all the time, but every once in a while, if people get under my skin enough, then they're going to get the full wrath of me going through and checking in. And I literally dedicate like a whole day to it.
Oh my
So
word.
don't mess with
Don't comment on Melissa's page. Got it. Okay.
I will stick up
She's
for
good
myself,
at it.
but I'm very nice about it.
Yeah, I'm nice about it, but I'm going to put you in your place.
Okay, so here's an interesting.
But I try to do it for the betterment of hunting, and to remind people, like, maybe we can make 10 people less mean online, maybe it saves 10 hunters who wouldn't have joined because they would have been mean to
Maybe.
him.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I look
Well, I
at
would
it.
assume that you also, I mean, again, you're filming your 15th season here. Like, you've got enough people too that probably, I won't say come to your defense, but like almost self-regulate those comments, right? Because like that's what we see a lot is it used to be like we had to engage with all of them. Now it's like, oh, I know these guys are going to
These guys got to handle it.
Yeah, and it is interesting and cool to see, and it's very nice. But I think sometimes there's even more merit when they like. And the thing you got to be careful of is you don't want them thinking they get under your skin, right? Because like if you're looking for a reaction, that's not the reaction I'm going to give you. I'm just going to lay it out very nice, and a lot of times I'll end it with a hashtag kindness wins. Right.
Yeah.
Kind of like the last thing, like, how about we just all be nice here? And I don't ever like blow up on them. I don't get mad. I don't get none of that. Like, come on, we're all on the same team here. And again, it's for that person, but it's also for everybody else reading through those comments. And I'm hoping that I can like get people, I don't care if they stand up for me or not, but what if they do it to some new girl out there, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody stand up for her because maybe she's too afraid to do it herself, or maybe I can give her the confidence that she'll stand up for herself too, you know? So I think it's hopefully you can win on many different aspects. Sometimes it's absolutely just
there's been a few that we've had that I have gotten into it with, and then eventually I'm like, okay, you're wrong, I win, block, and then I win because I got the last word. So like that's always the option that exists for the nuclear push.
I can't ever remember, and there's been some pretty direct negative ones. I can't ever remember actually getting upset about a comment or even like a message.
Yeah,
just for whatever reason, my brain, Melissa, like the internet is like a fantasy world, and it's like if you took time out of your day to watch this video and write a negative message to me, I'm like, you're stupid. So, you know what I mean? So I'm like, it's just not real. I'm just like, if anything, there's been some that have intrigued me, and I'm like, interesting. Like this person really just at the core disagrees or doesn't like me for who I am, and it interests me. I'm almost like, we should have this person on the podcast. I'd just love to know why, you know, because I'm like, we're out here doing our best, you know.
Right. A lot of times you got to remember too, like I'll even look at some of them and I'm like, man, you know what? I woke up today. I was really excited about my day. I love my family. I love my job. I love what I do. You woke up really mad. And
yeah.
They're just and
not
so sometimes
happy
you almost
people.
feel bad.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like
Almost.
You can read those and I'm like, wow, like this person just really is not happy. Like, and it sucks like for them because I'm like how can you just be miserable in your life like day in and day out? Like you need to change something. Like that's not a good way to live.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt.
Should be no surprise to anyone listening to this that back with Hoyt another season. I'm actually going to be shooting the AX2 aluminum this year.
You traitor.
But you're still going RX9.
Yeah, blacked
carbon,
out as always.
Blacked out.
Yeah.
Big surprise for
80
everyone.
pounds. Big surprise. Yeah.
But seriously, man, I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Every year, it seems like we get a new Hoyt bow in our hands, and they're always a step above the last and just a step above everybody else.
Yeah, they're so consistent, man. Just their processes get better, you know, every year. And we've really been excited about, as we've grown with Hoyt, we've brought some others in with us. And we just feel like the Hoyt family is growing, like the community, and we're really excited about the people that are involved, excited to be a part of that company. And it's really awesome.
So for anyone that's excited about Hoyt like Jared and I are, you can use the code HUNTR, HUNTR, on Hoyt.com.
Get serious, get Hoyt. I've come across recently, it's interesting that I didn't mean to dig into this topic necessarily. I've seen a few pictures, like obviously of high fence deer that get just posted. And generally I think they are by the outfitter or whatever. But it doesn't say like Jimmy John's high fence operation. It just says like Iron Mountain or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they're like so-and-so with a dandy. And it's like a 240-inch deer or something. And I love reading the comment sections of those. I'll go out of my way to just be like, I'm just curious what people have to say. And of course, everybody's just tearing. There's not one positive comment on there. I'm like, what is this dynamic? Why does this post exist?
Yeah.
You know?
Like, what do you think you're going to get out of it?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing is whether you like it or don't like it, at the end of the day, the reason those places exist is because even the people who rip them apart are calling and booking.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, where there's
Interesting.
a business, there's a demand,
Yeah.
right? So like as much as you want to see all the comments and they're all this negativity, they're posting because they are a for-profit business who's making money off people who are okay with doing it. Right or wrong, doesn't matter. It's not my thing.
Right.
To each their own. But the reason they're doing it is because there's people out there who want that. So
Mhm.
even though the comments may say that, just like the guy who said baiting is wrong, and there he sits over a bear bait, and he's saying my rope is a bait and his bear bait is not a bait, right? Like it's just, it's always interesting because online people can be whatever they want. And the one thing
Yeah.
they don't have to be is truthful.
Well, and that's like you said, when you get into these, expos and consumer events and stuff, like rarely, if ever, do you hear those in a confrontational way, right? Like whether they're there or not, like they're not going to say it to anybody's face. And that's the problem with, like, when we talk about the technology. If anything, that's really played a negative role on hunting is social media, right? Because of everything we're talking about. Like, back in the day, like you went to the local gas station or diner, like we said, and you had a conversation. Somebody might said, "Oh, so and so killed that 8-point. Like he really lucked out." But that was like as the worst it got. Nobody else said anything beyond that side of it. Now it's like everything, any post that goes up, there's probably somebody looking at that saying, "Oh, paid for that one," or like even Lukowski's thing. Like, so we had Lee on the other day, killed 212-inch giant in Alberta, right? Awesome hunt, and even Lee was very open with it. Like he didn't make the best shot. He kind of lucked out on it. And like I read 10 comments in a row of, "I don't even know if I would call this a hunt. I mean, you paid the guy to just put you on it." And I'm like, I was like, have you ever hunted Canada? You realize like you can't come from the States and just like walk into Alberta and just go hunt. Like it's illegal. You can't do it. And like, but they don't know, right? That's just the immediate
to question
reaction.
anybody's work ethic of if it's Lee Lukowski, like it's just laughable.
Yeah. But that's what's out there, and it's so easy for them to pick up the phone and just type it. And then, I'm sure most of them just forget about it, right? They type it and they're angry, whatever, and then they just go and do something else. And that's just what they let. But then there's like a lasting impact of that. It's like, okay, now I associate you with that comment. Like maybe you were just having a bad day or something, or maybe you and Lee had a bad interaction at some point. But now I'm like, this guy's a dick. Like, I don't want to talk to him anymore.
No, it does make a difference. And, I think sometimes it comes from being uneducated, not knowing the rules, right?
Sure.
And two, it also comes from if you've never done it, right? Like I've done obviously a lot of guided hunts, a lot of unguided hunts, a lot of public land hunts, tribal hunts, you name it. Everything comes down to you still have to be a good hunter. You got to get up in the morning, got to be out there. You either got to listen to your guide or argue or whatever. Everybody's different on, if they want to listen to what people say. And then when it all comes together, you got to be able to close the deal, And I think sometimes people forget how hard you have to work also to save up the money to maybe go do that hunt or whatever it is. So there's always so much more involved than maybe what meets the eye. And if you haven't done it, it just seems like a simple slam dunk thing, and it's not always that way.
Yeah. And I think that's probably it is, whether you want to call it, uneducated or inexperienced, that is usually the root of those comments. For instance, somebody who like looks at you putting a rope out and says, "Well, that's baiting." It's like, have you ever watched a deer hit a scrape? Have you ever made a mock scrape in your life? Do you understand how that works? Like, there's no guarantees here. This isn't
like I said, they literally acted like I was using the rope to tie the deer to the dang tree.
Yeah.
Like that is not what is happening.
Exactly. And so, and who knows, like that guy, you saw him as bear hunting, he may not even be a deer hunter, right? Like same with the guy from Arizona. Like that dude probably never even hunted a whitetail in his life. Right. So
he said he didn't. I asked him.
Yeah, there you go.
Have you ever hunted the Midwest? Like, do you know what it's like to hunt here? Just because I've hunted Arizona, I know what it's like there. You can't use those same tactics in Illinois and Iowa and different places. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, you can try. Like I said, I'd love to be your neighbor if you're just going to walk your whole place every day.
Yeah, just put drives on every day. That's all it's going to be.
Every day, here they come.
Yeah. So it is that uneducated, inexperienced side that has that. But I think we've had the conversation. I don't know if you'll ever get to the root of the problem. It's just like, what makes hunters, especially because that's what we're talking about within our own community, what makes them feel like they have to make those statements? Because they do. It's like they have to state their own 2 cents on it, or their 15 seconds of fame, whatever. just to be like, yeah, you're wrong. You don't know what you're doing.
It's a generational thing. I mean, it's rooted in like just like you said, anger, or they just not happy with themselves. But also, it's like an entitlement to be like, my opinion matters.
Yeah,
when
probably.
Really, in that case, it doesn't.
And in the end, they're not thinking big picture. Like, I am less worried about maybe the hunt in front of me. I'm trying to think of the hunting community as a whole,
Sure.
and like literally how to make it better, how to make my kids have a great experience, how to get other people's kids out there. I am not someone who wants less hunters because I want a better hunt. I want my kids and all the neighbors' kids. I want everybody out hunting, and I want to find ways to make it exciting, because I think as a country, would be better if more people were back into hunting and took a break from their phones and sat out in nature and figured out where their food comes from and did those things. I think we'd all be better off. So I think sometimes too, it just comes from thinking very small and more worried about yourself versus big picture.
To build on that, Melissa, like you seem to be pretty conscious of like where we're going as an overall hunting community. What is your sense of that, like in general right now? Do you think things are improving? Do you think, challenges? What do you think? Where do you think we're going?
Well, I mean, I love seeing the idea. Women are a huge growing part of it. And I think when you see more women getting into it, you're going to see more kids, right?
That is a growing demographic?
I believe it has been for a while, growing from what the numbers were, right?
Okay.
Like from when I grew up, there were less women hunters than there are now. Now, that doesn't mean someone's out there like me where they're 200-300 days. Sure. That's not at all it. Yeah. It's just women buying licenses.
Yeah, I'm cooking most of this time, so you're hunting.
That's right.
But you know what I mean is trying to get that out. But I think a lot of it comes from kids, and I see more and more states doing youth seasons.
Yep, which is great.
Finding ways to get kids out there. Even, there's always a big argument on what's the correct age to get them started and all this. That's a whole nother thing. But I believe getting those kids exposed early, making it a good experience, and that's your job as a parent or as the mentor taking them out to make it fun. It's less about killing an animal and more about making it a fun experience. That's the difference. You could kill the biggest buck, and some of those kids, they don't care, right? It doesn't mean anything to them.
Right.
But if you made it fun and you had snacks and they got to call grandpa and this and that, like that's what they'll remember. So I think making it a good experience is more important than actually harvesting something.
Well said.
And then allowing them to tell friends. Like, I believe the best way to spread is word of mouth about hunting, about how fun it is, and making it almost like cool again in the school, where that's like a normal thing that people have off for deer hunting and things like that. And I worry because, like TikTok, for example, I'm kicked off TikTok forever. My son's kicked off TikTok forever because they don't like guns. They don't like hunting, right? And what I worry about sometimes with some of that is, are they making that the norm, that's never involved in things that they see? And it's true. They don't, because it's not allowed. I'm proof. Like, I've been kicked off and I won't mess with it anymore. But I like social media because sometimes it can get more people involved. But with TikTok specifically, I worry because there's such a ban on hunting, on guns, on shots, on any of that they're making a whole generation of kids think that's not a normal part of everyday life.
Yeah, we're like the most hated hunters on TikTok because we just post.
At least you're still on.
We just post clips
our
podcast
Here's
clips.
the trick. Here's the trick for us anyways. And I think we have 2 flags.
We do.
So we got one more, we're off or whatever. But those 2 flags came from literally anything other than us sitting at this table. It was like, who knows?
We showed Mitch Rompola buck one time.
Okay, so
like a
one.
static, just, thumb basically before we talked about it. That was flag number 1. I can't remember what the other one was for.
Deer walking through a woods, probably just literally anything hunting related. But if we sit here and just put clips on there, we've never gotten a clip for this. So they just like kind of let it roll.
But what a sad world. You can't even show.
Can't do anything.
It
completely
is
legal.
Nothing. I think it's, so I guess, Melissa, how old are your oldest kids?
So Noah's 18, Max is 17, Bryn is 15, Jax is 7, and Bella's 2.
Okay, so you've gone through the process. So mine are 13 and 9. And I would assume we were pretty similar in that, like, obviously we love hunting. We love everything about it. I messed up on my kids because I love hunting and I wanted everything to be perfect and I wanted them to be successful.
You don't know that yet.
They're adapting back to it because I've basically pulled that plug. But I'm just saying I recognize that I messed up with them and that I basically would be like, we're sitting here, here's the setup, deer comes in, they shoot it, success.
You just
right?
did some things you wouldn't do again.
Yeah, but in when I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, that's what a parent should do. Like, I want to set my kid up for success. But if you go back to, like, again, how we all grew up as hunters, like, we made mistakes all the time. We were unsuccessful all the time, right? But that's why we learned to get better. That's why we loved it. It was hard. We were grinding at it. So when the success happened, it was that much sweeter. I've since corrected that, and we're on a much better path. But I just wondered, like, did you find yourself, because obviously having that big of a gap generationally with the kids, did you find yourself in any of those situations where you're like, wow, I'm making it too easy for these ones, and now for the younger kids, you talk about just having fun and enjoying it, which is kind of how we grew up hunting?
Yeah, there's no question. We definitely did the same type of thing where, I mean, we'd have bucks scouted out. We're ready to go. We come in, we shoot them, we get them. It's a great buck. No interest, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, what did we do wrong, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, you made it too easy, right?
Yep.
Like, you weren't involved in the whole process. So especially Jax, who's 7, he has been involved since he was a newborn. He was literally in it all the time, but we let him have more of an active role. So like turkey hunting, he does almost all his calling.
That's awesome.
And he started at 3, and people give you grief that he's too young, this and that. That's fine. But we worked with him so much. We have had the best turkey hunts you could ever imagine. And I would literally put him up at 7 against almost any adult turkey hunter, because he has been there on so many of them, and he's been very successful. But we've gone sometimes where we go 3 days straight, which in South Dakota is a long time without, seeing or getting on turkeys. And boy, he is out there from dark to dark as a little kid, and
grinding.
I think that's what builds it, and letting them help with the ropes and the trail cameras and water tanks and, all those things we're doing, and never making it like he has to come. Be like, hey, this is what we're doing. Are you coming? Now, the one challenge is now he loves fishing almost as much as he loves hunting.
Yeah.
So, but that's fine. I love to see them kind of branch out and do their own things. But I just think that, yes, that is something that almost all hunters kind of mix up at some point in their life, where they want their kids to be successful, and they think that being successful will mean they like it. And that's not always correlation.
And that's, you mentioned the youth seasons, which I'm all for. In fact, we're talking about having like a youth gun season here in Pennsylvania in the upcoming years for the first time, which I think would be great. And the downfall is I see some of these kids, like I think Indiana just had their youth season here recently, and there were numerous kids that killed, booners, gross booning, Crockett caliber deer, and they're 6, 7, 8 years old. And I'm like, they don't know what they have there. Like, it's such an amazing animal that if they haven't had, misses, or they haven't killed the 4-point, and, they haven't stepped up to that. I'm not saying that they weren't excited about it and it isn't something we should celebrate, but my worry is when you put them in those situations and they have that thing, then it's like, where do you go from here? You just killed a 170 plus inch buck. Like, I hope that you're excited about that and you want to keep working at it, but there's also a chance of like, that's the ceiling for a lot of people.
The only good thing I see, for example, when a kid kills a really huge buck right off the bat, right? You worry about all those things. But what I like about it is sometimes kids love attention, right? Like, they truthfully would not care if that was a spike and everyone was that pumped for them.
Sure.
So I think sometimes you got to remember that the overall public, their family, their friends, the people in their community, maybe they get to middle school and they're like, oh, you're the kid that killed that big buck, right? So I think it's like a positive reinforcement of all the people around. And they may not have any idea of what they got now, but they know that because they got up that morning, they went out, they did it, everyone's so happy for them, that I think there's something to be said for that. And they may never beat it again, but hopefully they had a good experience. And all that positive reinforcement will not only bring them back to hunting, but maybe siblings to say, well, gee, look at all the attention they got. I want to do that too.
Yeah, I think that's a good psychological move for sure. And thinking of that.
That's an interesting take on it.
And mentioning the school side of things, like I will give my kid's school credit is like Harlan shot a buck last year and they printed out a 8x11 and they put it in the classroom, for the fall and stuff. And so he, again, to the note of like positive reinforcement. Like all his friends were like, oh, that's so cool. They didn't even hunt, right? Like they just see that he got his
it was a
picture
buck that he shot?
Yeah.
Oh, not, okay. No.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Killed a buck, just put it up on the wall. And yeah, so it was cool for that. And yeah, I wish more, well, obviously I wish more schools would celebrate that or at least, look at it as being like, that's a big part of our culture, especially in rural America. But there's just so many people that will complain about it that, it's not happening that often.
Yeah, and I think the positive reinforcement's important because even when I grew up, so we had a paper, it was called Outdoor News, that came around, and you could enter your deer into a photo contest. And so they also did fish, and you could enter your fish into a fishing contest. And I loved the competition part of it so much that I got, I shot, I don't know, maybe 110-inch buck, right? I thought it was the biggest buck I will ever shoot in my whole life. And I had my poor mom and dad do like a full-on photo shoot back in the day. And this was not normal to do full-on photo shoots. We did it, and I ended up winning like 8th prize, right? And got a sled or who knows, something like that. But having my picture be in the paper and having my relatives call and say they saw me, like that was such a positive thing. And this past year, I was actually in Missouri for the Boone and Crockett Awards. They do a youth night where all the kids who have shot a Boone and Crockett animal in the past 3 years can show up and they are given an award, and they put their photo on the screen and then tell like a little story about it. And it was so wonderful to see those kids come, but more so their parents brought them, their siblings, to see those other kids wanting to be like that. Like maybe they shot a big black bear, but then they see this other kid who shot a monster whitetail, or this one who shot a muley, and they're like, well, I hope to be back in 3 years with a big muley. And you're like, I hope to see you back too. But I think there's a lot of positivity in that positive reinforcement on things like that can go a long way that maybe people don't think about.
Yeah, I think that is, you mentioned like the newspaper thing. It was no different than like when you got your name in it for sports, like because you did something well, right? And it was in the Sunday Sports edition. My fear is like, because like, there's people that are posting every 5 minutes of their life on social media that it even if it is a celebratory thing, it's there and gone so fast, right? Whereas like, even though, yesterday's newspaper was, used to start the buck stove the next day or whatever, the fact is it was in the newspaper and the local community saw that, and that was a big deal. And so
mom probably clipped it out.
Yeah, clipped it out and put it on the bulletin board or whatever. And so, so that's where I look at it from a kid side, because, I thought the psychological side that you talked about of the kid shooting the big one is perfect. That's a great way to think about it. That's my biggest fear for like this next generation coming up, because with all the technology and stuff, and that's their normal lives, right? You can't tell them, hey, don't use cell cams, don't do this, when, in their classrooms, like, they don't even have books anymore. Everything's on Google Classroom. That's all that they do for school. So you have to figure out a way to embrace that technology side of it, but, still figuring out like the woodsmanship aspect, because like when we were kids, we were just outside doing outside things, like whether it was the winter or spring or fall, it didn't matter. Like you just did that. And now, it gets more compartmentalized to being indoors and stuff. So just figuring out how to bridge those two things. Like, I don't know if it's just open up a mapping app and being like, hey, we should go check this spot out. And then you actually walk to it and see what it looks like. There has to be ways that we can integrate those two to have more of a positive impact on those kids.
Dude, I think you nailed it. I think I've never heard it put that way, honestly. It's like the kids don't necessarily care about the big bucks or know what they have there, but the attention that they get for it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
And they never forget the way people
really well
made
put.
them feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at it. And that's the, and then the unfortunate thing is on some of that stuff is like, again, look at, and hopefully they're not on social, but you never know. Like, look at some of the comments that are on those posts. Like, half of them are like, daddy has money, or this was probably a high fence, or this was all of the things that immediately are like, you're cutting this kid down. It's like, for all we know, he's on cloud 9 right now. And like, the first thing you say is like, yeah, well, my kid would have shot it if I paid for it or whatever. And it's like,
and that should be part of the parent's job, is to protect them from those comments, if you're going to put it online.
Easier said than done, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true.
Just with the way that the world is on that stuff. But yeah, no, I think that's a really good point on how that kind of looks. How about, so I would assume primarily from a whitetail side, besides traveling to like Illinois and stuff, do you guys have a home farm in Minnesota?
Well, we live in South Dakota.
Oh, you're in South Dakota. Okay.
Yep. So I met my husband. He's actually a game warden here in South Dakota.
You better play it by the book then.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, absolutely. When I've worked this hard for my job, I'm going to really try to go out of the way. But anyway, we live here. We have land right here. We also hunt tribal land. We hunt state land. We have places here. We have friends that have land just across the border in Nebraska. So the nice part is we try to manage a lot of that. We also own a farm in Illinois and have a big lodge there that I run as an Airbnb throughout the summer and fall. Basically, I found it and I really wanted to buy it and it was too expensive.
Yeah.
So I found a way to make it work, but it's really close to where our property is. So our goal is to, kind of run it managing it as an Airbnb. And then someday when we're retired, we'll have a beautiful place that the whole family can stay. And we love working on all the pieces ourselves. It's kind of, there's a different sense of accomplishment when you've put all that work into it.
No
but
doubt.
I can't do that for all my shows.
Sure.
I have 20 to 26 shows a year. I only have so many hours in the day. So, as much as we'd love to do all our own stuff, I mix it up and travel and do other things. But for whitetails, a lot of it's our own.
Okay. So, I would assume, and I'm not as familiar with the South Dakota side. Jared and I have a farm in West Central Illinois that we bought, 3 years ago? 4 years ago?
We're in our third year right now.
And so I would say, just understanding, how Illinois works, what you see in, your home area of South Dakota, are you seeing a drop-off in hunters? Are you seeing an increase in, people locking up access, private access? Because I would assume, traditionally, if you went back, that was probably a lot of permission-based area or public or tribal you talk about. Are you seeing a dynamic change there like we have in places like Illinois with leases and non-residents, the three of us
Probably
being
not as
non-residents?
much because South Dakota is so heavily pheasant hunting.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's most people's big money operation, right?
Got it.
They run pheasant hunters through and you can make way more money hunting pheasants and nobody cares the age of a pheasant, right?
Yep.
It's a rooster, it gets up, it gets shot.
Yep.
So there's some benefits to that. But so here, especially turkey hunting, we have probably some of the best turkey hunting in the world, I would say. And you can pretty much do it permission based. You just go say hi, meet people and get by. Deer hunting is becoming harder. To get just permission. There's more outfitters. There's more people leasing it up. Still not as much as we have land in West Central Illinois as well.
Yeah.
Definitely not like it is there.
Yep.
But it's becoming more noticeable for sure. Especially just with more people outfitting, realizing, there's maybe money to be made. They're leaving all these fields for pheasants. Well, they also have deer, trying to capitalize on it. And I get it, but it is making it harder.
Has that affected the local, what you would consider, because Jared and I always have the conversation of even Illinois, the three of us are guests in Illinois as non-residents, right? Has that stuff had an effect to the resident hunting population in South Dakota, you think?
Yeah, I would say so because for example, there's a big ranch that they literally let almost anybody from town hunt and somebody leased it up, right? And so now all of a sudden you have 10, 12 hunters from town who always had a place they could go, can't go there anymore.
Yeah.
And that's just the way things work. I get it. But it makes us want to, buy our own land and manage our own stuff even more. But it takes time. I mean, land's expensive. Everything to do is expensive, so it's hard to save up enough to buy enough ground that you can make a difference. But you got to start somewhere. And I'm a firm believer. You start small and just keep adding to it. And before you know it, hopefully you'll wake up one day and be like, wow, we've done a good job.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting conversation because we hear it in Ohio, we hear it in Illinois, and it's and I get it. If you look at our block in Illinois, I would say at least 50%, if not more, are non-resident landowners.
Well, it's just, it's the known big buck states, and the regulations.
What county are you guys in?
Knox County, Illinois. It's and especially there, it's every piece of property is accounted for. Like every single one. There's not oh, you could go and get permission from so-and-so. And if there is, it's a known thing. And there's 5 guys that hunt that or whatever. And his nephews also run it. But it's I've never seen. Well, the more you get around, you see it more and more. Iowa is not like this. Kansas is more remote, but is becoming like this. Illinois, for sure, is because it was the original big buck state. I think a lot, especially that Golden Triangle area. So it's the furthest down that road of there is no permission. The leases are extremely competitive, and in most cases, taking the place of, they're getting bought. It's kind of wild. You know what I mean? We see it. And frankly, to tie it back to like kind of our technology, a lot of our conversation in the past, Jeremy and I's debate even has been like access related. We think a lot of the decline in hunter numbers overall is tied pretty closely to access. I think people are losing places to hunt. Your 12 people that used to hunt that, permission place that got displaced by a leaser, they're either gonna go to public and have, probably a poor experience and compete with a bunch of other people, or they're going to quit, or they're going to buy their own stuff. But that's, like you said, it takes money. It's less likely. So that's kind of how, I think that's the root of Jeremy's question is like, are you seeing this in South Dakota? And maybe you guys are rural enough as well, or it's not known necessarily for being a big buck state. So, you're not as far along as Illinois. But it's like that seems to be the way things are trending is people are losing access. That's why they're quitting hunting. And that's why you have guys like Jeremy and I advocating for regulation of technology, things we think are diminishing access. Sorry, I know that's loaded.
It is true. And I, because we have land in both, I definitely see it in both spots.
Yeah.
I think it's become that way. Like if I told you, for $100, go knock on doors and find a pheasant spot in South Dakota, nobody's probably going to ever let you hunt pheasants because every landowner is going to try to capitalize on ways to make extra money, right? Like you own the land, it's expensive.
I don't blame them.
So I'm a landowner in Illinois and, I get it. Like I understand if someone is just a farmer, why wouldn't you take that extra lease money from hunters who want to pay, and you're
Absolutely.
like, well, all I used to make is farming money. Now I make a big chunk on lease money. How cool is that?
For sure.
So I think there's always two sides to it. So now you have farming families who are maybe more well off because they've had that hunting income that maybe their grandfather didn't have. So I think there's always a positive side to both of it. You have to look at that. It's also increased land value. I mean, think of how much land sells for, we bought ground in Brown County. I mean, that land it's not cheap anymore.
No.
But someone's benefiting from it. If you had a family farm and were given 2,000 acres, I'd be pretty pumped at
You'd
the
be pretty awesome right now. You're sitting on a lot of good equity in your back pocket. Right. And that's the hardest part. I mean, like I hear a lot of, and I get the frustration from a resident side, but I hear a lot of residents saying like, oh, so-and-so leased their place. And I'm like, yeah, like, they had 150 acres and they just leased it for $100 an acre. He just made $15,000 for doing nothing different than he's doing right now. Like, how can you blame them for doing that? And frankly, it's their property. Like, they should figure out how to make as much money as they possibly can off of it. But I get their thought process.
There is an argument there. It's like, should you? Like, do everything to make as much money as possible? That it's a fair question.
I mean, farming practices are tougher and tougher with the way conglomerates are and like the way that these local farmers are getting choked out on stuff.
Yeah, it's just worth mentioning.
Let's put it this way. If your family was struggling and you're a farming family, let's just say, and it's had a couple bad years, and all of a sudden someone comes in and they can give you the difference to be able to help pay for your kids' college, right? Or put more food on the table or whatever it might be. I guess I always can see both sides. I'm not saying one way or the other is right, but I also can understand when times are tough and someone offers you money for something that didn't have a value prior to that.
That's the biggest thing.
Yep. It's different if your family was hunting it and now you got to displace your own family, right? But if you didn't have to do that and someone's offering you more money for something that really doesn't make that big of a difference to you, we're hunters. It means a lot. But to some guy who maybe he pounded some booners in his garage, right? And just skull capped them and put a nail between them. And he thought, well, those stupid deer were eating my crops, right?
Yep.
That's how some people look at it. I don't know. I think there's a lot of benefits that hunting can bring to a community as well. And I'm lucky to live where we live. This whole community loves pheasant hunters. And that's one of the things I love about being in South Dakota is they are very pro hunting.
Yeah.
And they understand that those hunters from out of state, they bring money, they buy ice, they go to the grocery store, they go to the gas station, they go to our restaurants. The whole town benefits from people coming to town. And our South Dakota tourism understands that too. So I think there are two sides to every puzzle on that. And it's hard in some ways, but I think it can benefit people also.
It's an interesting comparison, the conversation between whitetails and pheasants. I think, Well, there's always going to be somebody who is not happy with an overpopulation of even pheasant hunting, or I guess I would try to relate it to bass fishing or something where it's more about there is a quality aspect to it, but it's kind of more a quantity type of thing. Maybe I'm making light of that, but definitely compared to like a species like the whitetail deer, where it's like they have undeniable characteristics that come with maturity and they're unique animals. I mean, it's a big game animal. They're extremely highly sought after and stuff. And so there seems to be a difference in opinion between, let's say, and for instance, South Dakota, it's like, yeah, come out, shoot as many as you can, buy as much stuff while you're out here, and we'll keep stocking them. Keeping them come. Whitetails don't work that way. You don't.
That's why pheasant hunting is so great. Yeah. Like if I had to be an outfitter for one or the other, like I said, nobody cares the age of the pheasant that just got up.
It cackled and it got up and they shot it and that's it.
I know. Well, and so it's a blessing and a curse. It's like we love to hunt whitetails because of what they are, but it also creates, whatever it is, tension between people, or like just competition. I guess would be the word. Unlike anything else. And it's fierce. There's a fierce competition out there.
It's definitely it's the dividing factor, because like even turkeys, it's like, besides Jake and Tom, it's like
Tom's a Tom.
Nobody's gonna pass it, but like, no, he's only 2
a 3-year-old bird.
Yeah, I'll wait till next year. I'm like, no, you're gonna kill him. Like he was just gobbling his face off. Yeah. So yeah, the whitetail thing is the real divide because of the limited resource, especially when you're starting to talk about quality of animal or maturity of animal. Like there's only so many of those to go around in a given spot. And yeah, it definitely is becoming the he who has the money or she that has the money, captures the best area. Like that becomes the dominant factor there. And most of the time, the average deer hunter resident in the area is the one who's getting the shaft, right? Yeah. Because, the three of us, I mean, we live it, right? I mean, we love being there all summer, working on the farm, developing it, watching the deer grow, watching the fawns, like everything about just having property and like owning dirt. Not only is it a good investment, right? But the end goal is like we get to hunt on it and enjoy it with our families. For the average guy who's just an average resident deer hunter, theirs has always been probably a small window of, yeah, it's gun season. I'm going to go out and I'm going to hunt and hopefully kill a buck, and then Sunday I'm watching football or whatever, right? It's a short-term thing, but they are the masses, right? That's the hardest thing to kind of fathom here, is that group is the larger number of hunters in the state, right? The smaller number are the people that control the land masses, basically.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Bushnell.
Man, what an iconic brand. I mean, I vividly remember growing up, it seemed like every serious deer hunter had a Bushnell pair of binoculars or a Bushnell rifle scope. You knew that those guys were serious about what they were about to go with if they were packing the Bushnell stuff.
No doubt, man. I remember Bone Collector guys and so many others that we've respected over the years. It's always been like your grandpa's rifle scope. And since then, obviously, they've developed so many great products. We're rocking the R series of binoculars this year. I believe it's the R5 10x42s. Those have been awesome. We took those to TAC a couple weeks ago, along with the Broadhead rangefinder. It's got a ton of technology packed into it for angles and and for bow hunters ultimately. So that's been awesome.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things, we've talked about this with a lot of the brands we're working for, is we want high quality gear that's affordable, and that's exactly what Bushnell's trying to position here. They want to make really good gear that anyone that's serious about deer hunting can afford. And so most of those R5 series binos that we're talking about are under $300 for unbelievable glass.
No doubt. And so for right now, you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, to get a discount on the Bushnell website. That's bushnell.com. Melissa, if you had to, this is not like, there's no way to answer this question probably. If you had to say like what percentage of your interest or effort goes into whitetails, like how whitetail focused are you, versus any other species?
Very whitetail focused.
Very whitetail focused.
Probably 90% of what I do is whitetail focused. Whitetails are what people want to see.
Yep.
They're what I love.
Yeah.
They're what I grew up chasing. It's, if someone told me you can shoot a Boone and Crockett of any animal you ever wanted, I'd pick a whitetail every single time.
And that's why we like you.
Because that's my love. That's my passion. But I do other things because I can only hunt whitetails so much.
Sure.
And to be honest, to kill big, mature whitetails, it's a hard thing, right?
Yeah.
Like I have to do a lot of deer hunts to try to get 4, 5, 6 big bucks each year. That's a lot of time in the field. I spend a lot of time late season when everybody else has quit trying to keep after it, because you can only do so much in November. So that is definitely the bread and butter of what I do.
So what is the strategy? So you guys hunt whitetails in South Dakota. You own a farm in Illinois, and then I assume you're hunting multiple other states as well. What is that, mainly with outfitters? Is that with friends? What's the strategy?
So I try to mix it up. So I usually start like in August. I do velvet mule deer in Alberta. I do velvet mule deer in Colorado. I try to do elk, moose, get all those right away. And October I kind of use as like a reset time to make sure our farms are all ready to go, watching cameras. I try not to keep October very structured, because like I got a huge buck on camera last night. If I want to leave tonight and try to go kill him, I can, right? Because my schedule's pretty open. But once November hits, then I book times. Like the beginning of November, that'll be Kansas. I drew a tag there. Then from Kansas, I leave like a week for Illinois on our property. I try to just pick the best time. But let's say I get done early in Kansas, I go to Illinois early. Let's say I kill early in Illinois. I've got multiple tags that I can keep going to of places that I may never even get to if it's hard. But if it's really good, you can do really, really well. So I'll go from Illinois, then I'll come back to South Dakota, try to do some rut hunting here. I go to Montana, I go to Alberta. I do Iowa late season, Ohio late season. So I'm just I've got some of them a specific window, but some I try to leave kind of open. Some are with outfitters, some are with friends, some are with land we lease, some are with land we own. So try to mix it all up.
That's a hell of a schedule.
That's awesome. Yeah.
There was one year, and I can't remember. I think I killed 5 bucks over 150 inches in 7 days, if I'm not mistaken. And I was literally so tired and so exhausted by the time I came home. The truck was just looked like it blew up. There's, but like, I guess the point is some years you can really, really have a great time. And that's why I have so many tags, because maybe I kill in Kansas. I'll go to Illinois. I'll just, keep knocking them out. I'll drive all night. I've got a cameraman with me. We'll sleep when we're dead. We just got to keep moving, because November's only good for so long. But then I've also done it where, shoot, I've gone 3-4 weeks, 5-6 hunts, and you zero on them all. And you're like, oh, what is happening? Right.
I know.
So you try to take the good with the bad. Some years it works out, some years it doesn't.
Well, I was gonna say that's the we were kind of joking about some of the Western guys that are like just purely Western hunting, and it's like obviously that end of August into September and in that time frame, it's like great, like that's, you guys are charging at it. Like in the whitetail space, we've got a few velvet hunts, but other than that, we're waiting for October. And then I'm like, well, what do they do after that? Like when those seasons end and like you get into like early to mid October, I'm like, then what? Like, and it's like, well, we're kind of done for the most part. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like we've got 3 months ahead of us to like grind it out on stuff, which to your point is where Jared and I started to expand into mule deer and elk and other things too. So that when we come back, it's like, whitetails are just getting started on there. But the emotional roller coaster of whitetails, those Western species are so fun because, you can basically, I call it like you can hunt from sun up to sundown. Like you can just constantly be chasing and glassing and chasing and glassing. The roller coaster of whitetails of like going into the sand or sit all day or whatever, nothing happens, weather's crap, whatever. It's like, it's so weird to like talk about like being just in a tree stand, yet like being physically drained of like any energy at the end of that hunt.
And sitting there dark to dark. I mean, when you've done it 15, 16, 17 days in a row and things just aren't going your way, sometimes you're like, oh, I'm the worst hunter on earth, right? Like, well, what am I doing wrong? And then all of a sudden the switch can flip and you're all of a sudden from zero to hero and you're the best hunter on earth. It's crazy how quick sometimes that can change. But I think to me, that's what makes it special. Whitetail hunting is very difficult and is really a patience game. And there's a lot of people who don't have the patience.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Are you a patient person?
Very, very much so.
Yeah.
At least in the hunting side.
Yeah. See, I'm not when the timing's right, like during the rut or right weather conditions with the front, like I'm a dark to dark. That's fine. But to what you just said, like,
did I just hear dark to dark?
Yeah,
that's never happened. That's never happened.
Most of the time by 10 a.m. I'm like, so I should probably like go get breakfast.
Like 9:30. He's like, I'm thinking breakfast run. What do you guys want?
I'll bring it to you. Yeah.
He does bring it. I'll give him
It's
that.
just, and it's not even the impatience of like hunting, because I love being in the stand at that time of year. It's just, if it's not going, like I feel like I'm just sitting there, you know, decreasing my odds in that spot, and I'm like, I need to go somewhere else. I need to go to a new spot, type of thing. Like that's how my brain.
And I look at it the complete opposite. The longer I sit and the longer that I'm there without things happening, the higher the percentage that I believe something's going to happen soon. And I truly believe I've killed more deer between 10 and 2 than any other time of the day. More whitetails. If I went through all my footage, I have killed so many during that period of time. And I think there's different reasons for it, but I think one of the number one reasons is I hunt in areas that are pretty highly pressured. And there's people like you that might get out of their stand at 10.
I have to go to Sonic at that time.
And they're coming by me while I sit there just waiting it out. So in my opinion, that's always been something I live by is hunting dark to dark almost the whole month of November, and usually the last couple of weeks in October and really into December. I mean, I've decoyed bucks as late as I think December 18th. So like you'll see some of that activity if you just sit tight, and I just believe the longer you sit, the better your chances are, as long as everything else
statistically
is right.
The odds are in your favor.
What's your trick to patient? Like what do you do in the stand? Yeah, eat.
Get fat, sit around.
Oh, heck yeah. Nothing better than eating in a tree stand.
I'm a huge believer in having a big bag of snacks. Like, even if you eat them or not, like if I go to an outfitted place and they give you a little lunch, like I'll have that lunch gone by 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
and I'll be like,
same.
Okay, so now what? So we always have our own stuff with us, but I just think like, I don't know. I just think that like, I look at it as, well, what else are we going to do? Like go sit back in town or do like, that's not going to kill me a deer. I'm here to kill a deer. So the only place I can do that is right here. Now I will say, if I feel like maybe the wind's changing or something's not right, I will move and go set up another stand for evening or, do something like that. But as far as just leaving, I'm there almost always dark to dark. And I've also found if you're on an outfitted hunt, how much those people will appreciate that. So I believe sometimes that you'll be put in a better spot because they know you're not going to call asking to come out. And so I believe they'll put you in deeper and they'll put you in some better spots because they know no matter what, you will not call and ask to come out unless I can.
I agree with that.
See, Jared always tempts me with a day beer, and then I'm like, well, yeah, that sounds good.
How's that go?
You're like, hey, you want to go get day beers
and bring one to me, or I'll say, hey, if you get out, I'll get out. Yeah. Well, you know what? There is an element because it's like in my mind, I'm like, we are here to kill a deer. But we're here to have fun too.
So that's usually, so we do a Kansas trip as long as we draw. We do a Kansas trip every year, and we take the dads. So that's like our deer camp trip. So obviously Jared and I are there to kill a buck, but at the same time, it's like, we got to take care of these guys because like,
that's different.
They need all the help. Yeah. So like if my dad texts me at 10 a.m. and he's like, hey, you want to go get food? I'm like, all right, I'll come get you. Like that's the strategy at hand. Unless I'm like, hey, are you seeing stuff? Then you need to stay put. Like Jared, was it 2 years ago, you brought your dad a lunch with a beer in it, and he was like in tears.
My dad's the opposite. He's dark to dark. Nobody will out hunt that guy. There's not a whole lot of strategy in a lot of cases, but he will sit there forever.
He's not leaving it.
And so normally it's Jeremy and I and his dad sitting back at the lodge drinking beers and just laugh at him. And dad's sitting out in the tree stand seeing nothing for like a week.
And so you packed him a little lunch and stuff and like brought it.
I put some effort into a lunch. I made him some sandwiches and the works. You know what I mean? A little avocado probably on a sandwich. And he was like, he texted me from the tree stand afterwards. He's like, I was so moved by the lunch you brought me. Because it was day 4 or 5 of sitting all day seeing nothing. He probably, missed one on the first day type of thing. And that happens a lot with the dads. But.
Yeah. So that's a different type of trip.
All about the memories, though.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. So that's a different type of grind in that stuff. But yeah, it's fun.
Melissa, what would you say? Obviously, you have interacted, I would say, with a lot of like great whitetail hunters over the years in the industry, in your position. Is like your strategy feel like it's at this point it's like solely your own, or is there people still that you call that you're like, how would you tackle this? How do I get on this buck? I mean, do you have some like mentors still, influences that you trust?
I really wouldn't call anyone except probably for my husband.
Yeah.
We go back and forth. I mean, we both absolutely love it. I believe he's one of the best hunters I've ever met.
Really?
And I think sometimes there's just so much you can be a great hunter, but it's always good to bounce ideas. Like, tell me the pluses and minuses. If I do this, like we've got this huge buck, I've seen him. Do you think this is too aggressive? Do you think it's not aggressive enough? You know, I'm getting that input. And I think there's just one, it makes it more fun because it makes it feel like you're a team and you're all doing it together. But two, I think it can be very, it works well. And I'm more of a person, I think we talked about it before. I like interaction. So I'm a huge believer in decoying.
With the deer.
I usually start decoying about mid-October, and I'll decoy all the way until mid-December.
Really?
Wow.
And I have killed so many bucks over decoys. And I believe there's a lot of strategy in it. I think there's people who just stuff a decoy out and they're like, gosh, I can't believe it. Everything busts away. And that's okay. Like, I was a pole vaulter too. And I like that because not anyone can just come up and become a great pole vaulter, right? There's a lot of fast people who could just run a quick sprint, but to pole vault, you have to know the strategy. And I think there's a lot similar to that with decoying because there's a lot that I have learned. Nobody really taught me. It was literally through trial and error, like things that work, that don't work. And you learn from the deer in each area. You learn from what you see. I think it's about being adaptable and knowing that you have to change your tactics, and you don't know it all. You're always learning. I do seminars all across the country, a lot of them on decoying. And I learn so much from people in the crowd sometimes too, where I'll talk to them afterwards, old guys who tell me like this trick they did, and just little things that you can learn that I think are really, really interesting. And I think you're always learning.
There's two guys that stand out to me that also are big decoy fans. One is Stan Potts.
Yep.
I don't know if maybe you overlap or shared stories with any of these guys, but Stan Potts was one, and
Jay Gregory.
Was Jay Gregory was? Jay Gregory, and Philip Vanderpool was the other one I was going to mention. Trying to just recall.
Yeah, who decoys a lot.
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting. It is a super aggressive strategy. Like, if I had to put myself in a bucket, like, I'm a caller. Like, I love calling and interacting.
Let's call it.
Yeah. Let's call it. It's time to go get breakfast. I love calling that deer. Not so much rattling, but grunting, snort wheezing.
Big grunter.
Yeah, I'm a big grunter, you might say. That's just kind of, and so I just like that communication aspect of it. Honestly, I think the decoying side is probably more intimidating to me because I'm just like, it's just another thing out there that I'm like, I just want to be invisible, basically.
Yeah, no, there's, you know, you're going to burn yourself on times, and you're also going to kill deer you'd have never killed without it.
I bet.
So I think sometimes, like, and the same with elk hunting. Like, my husband, we do a lot of elk hunting. My husband's actually got the state record in South Dakota with a bow.
Wow.
And when we're elk hunting, he believes in the same idea, like being invisible, right? Like, we don't do anything. We want to listen. We want to hear them, and we want to get inside, slip in, and they never knew we were there.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of different techniques that you can try on things. It's just partially too, for me, decoying has worked so well over the years. I mean, I have no idea how many deer I've decoyed in, but it's been a lot. But it's also more fun for television because you know, I'm trying to produce TV. It's pretty cool. Like, we might bring, like, I think one time we brought in like 30 deer into the decoy, right, on the hunt. And it's like, yeah, they might not be big deer, but each one will act differently to that decoy. And you never know what's going to happen. Like, are they going to hit it? Are they going to mount it? I mean, they do all sorts of weird things, right? But I think as far as like an entertainment thing, it's more exciting. And for me, it's really fun because you are always learning. You're always kind of improving your tactics and trying to be better.
Can you give us a breakdown, Melissa, of like what works with a decoy? So you've done it for a long time, killed a lot of deer. What works and what doesn't?
The biggest thing is you have to get your scent off that decoy. So when you put it out, a lot of times I'll have it kind of quartering to me. And when I started decoying, I would put it broadside because I thought when a deer comes to fight another deer, they'd want to lock horns. And then I'd have the broadside shot. What actually happens is when he's quartering to you, they want to hit him in the ribs. They want to do a cheap shot. They don't actually want to lock antlers. They want to just stab them. So they'll come, and if he's quartering to you, it'll give you that broadside shot as they come in. And the key with decoying is watching their mannerisms. So when a deer is coming into a decoy and he's totally duped, his ears will be completely pinned backwards. His hair is all bristled up. And they're trying to look as big and tough as possible. If at any time those ears flip forward, that means they either heard something, smelled something, like you better be aware. But if those ears are pinned back, you have all the time in the world. So a lot of times people will rush it. And the other thing is when they come in, like, you have to watch what deer do, because if the wind doesn't change every deer does almost the exact same thing around that decoy. So what I do is I kind of look at it as like a dress rehearsal. If like a young buck comes in and I didn't have a good shot, I will get down and I will make a change to that setup. So that way the next buck that comes in, I would have that broadside shot. Also, so I spray it down. I use Scent Killer Gold to get my scent off of it. And then if it's legal, I'll pour some scent underneath of it. I'll put some buck scents, or I even will cut off the tarsal glands on a deer and throw them under it, just to add to the realism. I like to do a little rattling, grunting, maybe snort, wheeze. But the key there is they hear something, they come in, they see something. The third thing a whitetail will always want to do is they're going to want to smell it. So they've heard it, they see it. They're going to try to get downwind, know where your wind is at all times when you're decoying, because they're going to try to smell that decoy. They get downwind, they smell what they should smell. Now, in my opinion, you've got 3 out of 5 of their senses. You've got them. They commit, and I've had it on big bucks, booners, you name it. They commit in, and you've got your shot. But if it's a deer you want to shoot, do not let them hit your decoy. Get that shot before they hit it. Because what I've found is once they hit that decoy, they know what happened, right? Like something's not right. And they will drop, they will jump they'll do anything to get out of there. They're all keyed up. And a lot of times they might be standing 40, 50 yards. They're keyed up, and I'll see people take a shot and they drop. Well, they're way too keyed up to be doing that. You need to try to get that shot ahead of time. So those are just like a few little things. Is there a certain setup that you're looking for, and some that you would like definitely avoid in terms of open, timber, that kind of thing? I prefer open areas. Like a lot of times I'll do it on food plots, only because of the visibility that they can come in, they can see it. Again, I try to use the rattling, the grunting, the snort, wheeze to bring them to the edge of that food plot, and then use that visual to get them to seal the deal, really. You can do it in timber too. It's just what I've found is it's hard to know where your shots are going to be. You can only have so many lanes. So when timber's pretty thick, sometimes they can come, they can see it, and they're like, and they just kind of skirt out of it. Where on a food plot, they kind of make that commitment to come and fight your decoy, and I feel like you have a better chance. Gotcha.
Is there a preferred brand of decoy you use?
Not necessarily. You just got to find one that looks realistic. Yeah. The realism is key. The number one thing, and I have no idea, and I'm not going to call any decoy manufacturers out, but if you buy a decoy and his ears are forward, you have a problem. No good. Right? So I tell people in my seminars, let's say you bought a decoy and his ears are forward, literally cut them off and glue them on backwards. Because there's no deer in nature that comes in to fight your decoy with his ears forward. They don't. I can show you all the videos. So you want to find something that looks like the hair is bristled up and the ears are pinned back.
Interesting.
I want to say most of the ones I've ever used, the ears are generally like,
they're just like stick on, like, and they are in like an alert position. They surely aren't back.
But you do not want them in that alert position. Put them backwards.
Yeah.
So like we bought some Dave Smith, and I think they look great. And you can put the ears in backwards. That's how we do.
The original ones weren't though.
I've had some at some point. I can definitely say I've hunted over a decoy where they were like this. Yeah. And I don't think they ever worked.
Which makes a lot of sense of why it didn't work.
Mid-October is surprising. I'm like terrified that they're not dumb enough at that point to like realize to commit. You know what I mean? I think just my opinion, and I haven't decoyed them nearly. I don't think as much as you have, but like I would be pretty terrified to do that anytime before even November 1st. I'm like, they're just not there yet at that level of like eyes rolling back in their head type of thing,
It depends on the buck, and it depends on their dominance. In my opinion, the more dominant buck does not want anybody in his area, and then he surely doesn't want anyone in his area that's posturing to him with his hair bristled up and his ears pinned back. He's not just another deer standing there. He's like basically telling him, giving him the finger in his own area, right? Yeah. And so a lot of times those deer, they just will not put up with that, and they want to come and fight it. And I've actually pulled bucks off of a hot doe during the rut to come fight my buck because they can't handle another buck in their area. And it's amazing how well it can work. But I see what you're saying. And they may not be as, as ramped up, but a lot of times it's like that idea of that fight. They just can't help themselves. You know,
I would assume
they just hate that it's the idea of it bristled up and the ears pinned back.
For sure.
Because they don't know if there's a hot doe there that this one's posturing.
Yeah. It's a believability factor. It's like, because October 1st, they are smart enough to look at that thing and be like, it looks like a deer, but I'm not sure if it is. October 15th might be the tipping point where they're like, I'm willing to test it, because he's pissing me off.
I think it definitely has a lot to do with that deer's personality, right? Because we've all seen deer that are giants, but they're not fighters, right? Like they just, that's just their personality, right? Not saying that they won't respond to calls and stuff, but they're not out there looking for fight. You see other ones where every time you see them, it looks like they just beat the hell out of someone.
And you'll see it late season too, because I've had deer that have been beat up so badly that they're like very cautious to come into a decoy.
Yeah.
So one thing I do late season, I'll remove one of the antlers on my buck. And what that does is it makes him look a little bit like an easier target.
Yeah.
And some of those who have been beat up are like, I guess I could take this guy. He's missing a whole side. And what you'll also find is when you take off a side, they'll always try to hit him in the ribs on that side. So I use it sometimes to kind of adjust where I want those deer coming based on where my best shot is. I'll remove that side of the antler and they'll come in broadside on that side.
It's interesting to hear you say that they want to stab them in the side. Like I've known that does happen, but when I've watched hunts where guys are decoying and stuff, I was always under the impression that they're just sidestepping and they're expecting eventually to end up in a position of being locked up. Do you see that?
No, I have all the videos where they actually, when they hit my decoy, every one of them hit them right side. Into the ribs.
Wow.
Can't wait to hear people tell you that you don't know what you're talking about, Melissa, on this clip.
Cool. I wish everybody the best of luck. You can put your decoy out with your ears forward and paint it purple.
Yeah, good luck.
That's cool. I'll hunt next to you and set mine up.
It's a cool thing because, just like I said about the calling, like you clearly have confidence in that technique. And honestly, I think that's probably half the battle. Like if I carried a decoy out there, I'm like, boy, I have no confidence in that thing. That I'm already a step behind, right? Whereas if you go out and you have confidence in what you're doing and the setup and how you're going to draw them into the area, I mean, that's a huge part of the battle. We hear that all the time with, guys who are like, man, I'm just not sure about snort wheezing at a deer. And it's like, if you've never snort wheezed at one and had it respond like you want, I see that, right? Because there's no confidence. There's no example that's been let out to say, hey, this is how it works and this is how you're going to be successful.
Well, it's funny. We've heard people, Cody sat right here and was like, I don't call at whitetails. Like that's, I'm not good at it or whatever. I'm like, dude, like,
yeah, I'm
do you realize
90%
what you're missing?
I've called in and killed. Like that's, but it's just, and obviously he's a killer, right? So, I mean, it's just different techniques for people and whatever you find is confident. Just like you were saying, your husband just wants to get in position on those elk and never have them know versus other guys who I'm like, they're calling them in from 2 mountains over. And the whole goal is to be the loudest, most obnoxious bull that bull's ever heard.
Yep.
Last thing, and I'll move on.
It's all right. It's just a matter of what people like.
Yeah.
That's what I love about hunting. You can do it any way you like.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing, and I'll move on from the decoys. Just because I'm curious to apply this. I've got a decoy sitting in my garage. I'm like, I'm going to use it here. Are you worried about educating other deer, like does and stuff about let's say in particular on like one of your home farms, like either in Illinois or South Dakota, are you more cautious about like, I don't want to just put this thing out with me every time because deer are going to like figure it out kind of a thing or no?
No, but what I will say about that is I'm very careful about my scent on that decoy. So that way, even if it doesn't move, you may have does snort at it sometimes, but they don't seem to matter. I will say there was one time that I had a buck coming into my decoy. He was huge. And right as I was getting ready to shoot, he was postured up to my decoy. I had put all this brush on top of my ground blind and it all blew off. Okay. Right as like a second, 2 seconds before I actually released my arrow. And he spooked off. And for the rest of that season, if that buck saw that decoy, he bolted.
Wow.
He was out of there.
Just a bad experience
for that season,
in general.
We pulled that decoy for that area where we were hunting and never used it again. We still never got that buck, but we had multiple more encounters. But we found out very quickly he associated that deer, that decoy, with danger. What I found is if nothing bad happens to them, they don't seem to really care. We'll decoy in bucks and they come in and they'll go around, and sometimes you have to know it's not going to work perfect every time, but as a rule, it works very, very good. But I don't find that you're educating them. I don't want them to hit it if I can help it,
right?
Because I do worry about that when they hit it. I don't know if
so. That was going to be my question to follow up on that. Is like, especially if we're talking farms that we're managing, you obviously probably have a healthy age structure. And like, we've all seen aggressive 3-year-olds and things like that. Like, what if a 3-year-old is coming up and posturing to this thing and he's going to hit it? Like, Do you do anything? Do you let them hit it? Like what's the?
I've just let them hit it in the past because I don't want to associate danger with it either. I'm not sure what the correct call is on that.
Have you ever killed one, Melissa? You think that you saw a young, so when he was 2 or 3,
yes.
mullet, and then kill him over a decoy?
Yes, for sure I have. I had one that I decoyed in South Dakota 2 different times, and then the year I killed him, he decoyed right in and I killed him.
Well, I think sometimes
during the rut, they forget about everything.
Yeah, I think that answers probably a lot of it. Again, and sometimes we give these deer too much credit, right? Like we're like, oh, he's gonna remember that, And part of it is like I think Stan was doing it one time where like I don't know 2 3-year-olds in a row like came in, blew it up, he went down, reset it up, got back up in the stand. Another 3-year-old came in, blew it up, and then I just didn't know if those situations like I'm sure. You're targeting you're in an area and targeting a specific deer, but there will be other age class of bucks using that area. So you're going to have those interactions.
Absolutely. And actually one year in Nebraska, I had a big buck come into my decoy and he came in and it didn't work out and he blew out of there. Right. And I thought, oh my gosh, but it's the middle of the rut. My husband and I were hunting on our own and we said, you know what? Let's try decoying him again. We moved about 400 yards, set up in another spot because I didn't want him to see that decoy in that same spot again. And we killed him. He was a booner the next night, about 400 or 500 yards away from the spot that had happened the night before where we didn't get him.
Wow.
So there's a good example. Same deer, different location, worked out perfect.
It's just an instinctive trigger inside of them that, like, again, it is probably personality driven to a point, but like you said, once they have those ears laid back, when they're locked in, it's like it's got to be an outside force to bring them out of that trance.
Yep. Which is good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big deal, man. That's such a huge strategy. Like, what percentage of your hunts in October, November, mid-October through like mid-December would you say the decoy's with you?
Every one of them.
Oh my gosh.
Every single one.
That's wild.
Every single one of them.
Really?
Very, very seldom, unless I have a reason for not using it. I drag that decoy in almost everywhere I go.
And that probably dictates a lot of where you sit, right? Like
that's why I sit all day too. It's a big pain bringing all that crap
in. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Are you in early setting it up? Early.
Yeah. You want to get in there early, get everything set up, get in your stand, set up.
I don't think I know anyone else doing that, Melissa. That's pretty freaking cool.
Well, so
it's fun.
That's pulling
you
out of some other situation. Like you're making a decision to hunt with a decoy in probably an open area like you described, as opposed to like a pinch point or a funnel or a scrape set or something. You're just choosing that open area with calling,
Yes, but I will hunt the other areas too. I mean, if I have a big scrape, I'll hunt that decoy over that area in a heartbeat because they're coming to check that scrape line. You're going to have all sorts of deer coming through there. You just think about, like, you try to figure out where that scrape is, where the other scrapes are, put cameras in, understand the pattern of how those deer are coming in, and then position your deer accordingly. So that way you're sitting in there with your decoy. I mean, sometimes I'll put them 5-6 yards from the scrape, and what I've found is the younger bucks will go and they'll use that scrape, or if there's even a little bush, they'll go rake that bush and they're trying to like show off to that decoy before they come fight them.
That's super interesting. Oh, yeah, we've never talked to anybody that hunts with it that much. Okay, let me ask you this because we're gonna keep going. What percentage of mature like shooter bucks have seen the decoy and not, committed versus not committed? Like, is it like, hey, a high percentage of them see it and they just have to come, or it's like, well, some just don't. They work off.
Yeah, that depends. I would say, that's hard to put a number on. I'd say during those peak times, 70% of mature bucks will come in, and 30% will kind of go away for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe a doe's holding them away, or maybe something's not right. Sometimes they start coming and they're like, they lose their train of thought and then they hear something and they're off that way, right? Very seldom do I see a buck make eye contact and not come. Sometimes I don't have it positioned right, where maybe I'm like, I don't think he saw it, right?
Yeah,
I think maybe he saw the antlers, but he couldn't see the whole body. So that's a big part of your strategy too, is making sure you've always got him positioned. So that way, wherever a buck comes around, they can always see his full body, right? Because it's not just the rack. You want them to see that whole body.
Pretty awesome.
It's crazy. Every hunt.
Yeah, every hunt. I mean, every once in a while, if I'm at an outfitter and they're like, "Hey, I wouldn't bring your decoy here," I'll honor their.
You're like every hunt. I will
But
take
for
this
me, unless someone tells me not to, it's on with me every time.
Wow, very cool.
Is that a carry-on on the plane or?
No, I ship them.
Converted it
I'll
into
be
luggage.
honest, almost every whitetail hunt I drive to. So
Yeah.
I have too much gear. It's just easier to drive to everything.
Yeah. Well, damn, Melissa, that was awesome. We appreciate you coming on and just like
thank you
that,
guys for having me.
2 freaking hours. Like when you get into the deer talk, like you're just in the zone and just dive right into it. But no, well, for what it's worth, and it doesn't mean anything probably to many people, but stamp of approval from us. Like
Yeah,
you're
100%.
legit.
Appreciate it.
I think it's and we knew, like I said, we've been kind of planning. We're like, we got to get Melissa Bachman on. Like this would be a really cool conversation. But that decoy and stuff, I mean, that's a very aggressive strategy, I think. And like, we talk to a lot of people on this podcast, and I would say a lot of guys who are serious deer hunters are very conservative in their hunts, and that's an aggressive strategy. And so kudos to you. And like I said, you got confidence in the success that you've seen with it. So run with it.
Yeah, and I got that confidence early, so I think that helps.
That's
and when you have
huge.
the confidence, the more you use it, the higher your percentage is going to be.
So leave you with this. So what network is your show airing on for this season?
Sportsman's
You're on
channel.
Sportsman. What do you are you airing right now for Q4?
Yes.
What-
Yep, I air 365 days a year.
What's
year-round.
your time slot right now, just so people know?
Sundays at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, and then 5 other times throughout the week, and I don't know those.
That's
air
fine.
times,
But they can find you on the Sportsman's channel. Are you on My Outdoor TV too?
yes, on my outdoor TV as well.
There you go. Winchester Deadly Passion, Melissa Bachman, everyone.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I really enjoyed it, and appreciate all your time and for bringing me on.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Primos.
Dude, double bowl blinds, the original doe can, and who could forget the iconic Magnum buck roar?
I mean, that in a nutshell is Primos for whitetail deer hunters. I mean, that buck roar is by far the best grunt call that's ever been made. I lost it in a CRP field in Kansas, somehow found it, and for the last 10 years, I've been notching every buck that I've called in with that call, and I can tell you there's a lot of marks on it.
Been a lot of them over the years, man. I can recall. So my dad actually shot that 160-inch 8-point in Ohio a couple years ago. It was double bowl blind. I just set that up a few days before, and we've had a lot of success out of those over the years. And so right now, you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for a discount off anything on the Primos website. That's primos.com.
Speak the language. First of all, yeah, hopefully it means something. Certified, hunter approved. That's a legit freaking deer
Kinda blown
hunter right
away.
now.
Yeah, a little intimidated, honestly.
I love it. Like,
in a good way.
well, you first of all, extremely smart, very well spoken. Like her passion for that stuff, just like
It's deadly, they might say.
you might say, it's deadly.
Yeah.
But just, I hope everybody understands, and we got a really cool like dive in at the end. Dude, that decoying strategy is aggressive, and she is super confident with it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, every hunt to be toting that thing out there.
Well, and she didn't like throw it out there either. Almost like she didn't want us to know how deadly, because I had to ask her. She's like, oh, everyone.
Everyone.
Every hunt.
Yeah, I mean, that's
crazy.
yeah. Well, and I mean, even
I have to really coax myself up to take it out 2 or 3
I know.
times to be like, okay, I'm going to give this a try, you know?
yeah, because I mean, I've always looked at it as like, oh, am I educating him, or maybe he sees it and he's not a fighter. I mean, she's just, and I'm not going to hold her to it, but talking about 70+% of mature bucks seeing that, locking in, and like responding to it.
Well, she's got a lot of data. You know what I mean? She's been doing it for a long time. You know, so
yeah,
and
$4 or $5 a year for 15 years
That's
plus.
every one of those been killed over a decoy. That's insane.
Wild. That's a
Yeah.
cool tactic. Like I said, I mean, and like when you start to like, just like the deer management stuff, when we talk to, Higgins and Sturgis and Brackett and all these guys, like you start talking about the deer hunters and like, what's their strategy? And like, that was like, I'm locked in thinking like, this is a crazy aggressive strategy. And she's so freaking confident and effective with it. And I'm like, can I do that? And no, like, I don't see myself, like I call aggressively, and I'm very confident in that lane. And that's what's really cool about it, because, Cody DeQuisto sits there and he's like, I like, they don't even know I'm there. Like, I know I'm an aggressive caller. Melissa's putting out a freaking decoy for 8 weeks,
Isn't
every
it
hunt.
almost funny? It's just like, yeah, you have like, Cody on one end of the spectrum, and on the other, it's like, totally unseen, all that stuff. And Melissa's like just killing them like they do on TV.
Yeah, I'm
like,
here in plain sight.
Like,
yeah, and just calculated, know what they're gonna do, know how they're gonna respond to it, know what it needs to look like, know how. I thought it was when she's like, "Hey, I need these 3 senses to be locked in on it."
It is super impressive that for anyone, but for her to be pulling off hunts like that on film, like, and to be killing that many of them and to be producing a TV show out of it, like, that's pretty wild. I can barely do it to kill 1 or 2 a year.
Well, I mean, you
and
heard
not
her.
film it
she's hunting
to that level,
200 to 300 days a year.
Yeah.
That's a lot, or at least, in the act
That's
of
wild.
hunting, like managing properties and stuff, I'm sure is part of that. But like 200, 300 days a year, that's a lot of time, out there doing. I mean, talking dark to dark sits for like the entire month of November.
That's true.
Part of October and part of December. Like basically 8 weeks of dark to dark.
Imagine lugging a decoy to your set every single
I kind of feel like only a female could do that. Like, I don't think the guys have the will of patience to sit 8 weeks dark to dark.
Yeah, I don't know.
I couldn't do it. I can't sit 8 days dark to dark.
You got to think like a decent percentage of them are, I mean, not high odds, but like, and it's not to downplay the outfitter thing at all, but she's got people helping her in a lot of those instances. I mean, there's 2 or 3 that it's all her.
Yep.
But in other instances, she's got.
Yeah, she's going to lease property or guide properties.
Yeah. And that's all. I mean, dude, there's other guys out there that you good?
Yeah.
There's other guys that out there that like we're doing with Roger this year. It's like we're putting a lot of stock in his ability to like, help us be on.
There's other people hunting
on
there
the right
before
track.
you even get there. It's not like you're just walking in.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like we're putting a lot of stock into Roger being able to help us be on the right track early on. And it's like that's the only way you kill 4 or 5 bucks like that. 150 and above
extremely hard
in 7 days.
Yep.
Every year. That's wild.
Well, just thinking about like how the deer are just doing different things. Like she was saying, like I'm gonna be going to Kansas the first week in November, then I'll go to Illinois, and then I'll come back and go to South Dakota, and then I'll go to Alberta and stuff. And I'm like, the deer in all of those different places at those different times are doing, like, they're in a different stage of the rut usually, right? Like Alberta, I'm sure is going to be a heck of a lot different at the end of November than Kansas is going to be the first week in November. And it's like that decoy is just doing its thing.
Just decoying across the country.
Wow. She probably made her own decoy. That's why she couldn't tell us like what she's probably got like her own like mounted buck.
A real one. Freaking, that's what I would do if I was.
I don't know
doing
if it's
it,
legal.
If I was doing it that much, it's legal
To have a taxidermied buck.
I think so. Yeah, that would be the way to do it.
I'll have to call Trav up. Hey, got a project for you.
And in that case, I think very few deer would freak out.
Absolutely. Call Trav up.
It's interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to cost you $1,500. I would, probably just if the next time you shoot a buck that's going to get a European mount, just do a full cape.
Yep.
$1,500.
Yeah, I just wonder how many hits it can take from a 3-year-old or whatever.
Fix them up over the years. Yeah.
I don't know.
Not a bad strategy. I have thought about that. In the past, I've been like, I should do that. I just never. I've thought that about turkeys too. I was like, the next, whatever, I should just get it mounted and.
That's cool, man.
Get my own Jake the Jerk.
Pretty freaking cool. Well, if that conversation doesn't like entice you, like I would absolutely be watching some Deadly Passion now just to see what those hunts look like in reverse here and hearing that. But anyways, we appreciate Melissa coming on. Really cool conversation with her. Here we are, mid-October. Everybody's getting fired up for stuff. And we appreciate you guys listening to episode 278. 278, HUNTR Podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Later.
Take me